sonrisas ultrapenetrantes. Estamos cansados de los farsantes, de los...
It's beautiful, Miguel. Perfect, but useless. I have something for you, Diego. Give me your hands.
Papa,
Now, the grenade is simple. It has 4 basic parts. The shell, which contains the explosive, the fuse, the handle, and of course, the pin.
What are you doing?
Breathe, Diego. Breathe. The pin simply holds the handle in place. It is only when you let go that this grenade goes boom. Follow me. Now, I am El Presidente, which means that someday you will be El Presidente. And our people, they do not know how to be happy. They are torn apart by opinions, noise, indecision, strangled by their own freedoms. And even if you have love in your heart, even if you want what's best for them, if you only want to save them from themselves, they will hate you, Diego. Everything you say, do, believe, will be wrong. They will answer you with screams, call you evil, a monster, and give you this. So you tell me, are you evil? Are you a monster? Because our country is like this grenade, except it has 2 basic parts. Our people and you must clutch them nice and tight, or we all go boom. You understand now? Prove it.
Is the threat real?
Yes, sir, we believe it is.
Something big is gonna happen that can shift the balance of the Cold War.
He'll wipe out half of Europe.
It's time we took a peek behind the Iron Curtain.
I hope you brought an army.
I brought a knife.
Time to get our hands dirty.
This war was a lie.
There is no truth. Only who you choose to believe. I know you won't fail us. Pre-order now.
PlayStation
this war was a lie. Years of blood. Just to light the fuse of a secret war, decades in the making.
My fellow Americans, a nuclear conflict could well be mankind's last. We want to make this a more peaceful world.
5 days ago, we acquired intel. The Soviet agent Perseus is in play. If he's active...
10, 9, 8,
rAge has always been for
7,
everyone.
6,
I've never been at an event that's massive.
5,
rAge,
4,
there's a history here.
3,
A culture
2,
in this country.
1.
It's time.
Coming alive. Heat of the night. Now is the time. Don't try to hide. 'Cause I'm gonna haunt you like an animal. Coming alive. Heat of the night. Now is the time. Don't try to hide. 'Cause I'm gonna haunt you like an animal.
rAge 2020! Did you think this was gonna actually happen? rAge was actually going to go down. There were so many hurdles to get to this point that I'm just so grateful that we are finally here. We are streaming live on Twitch, Facebook, on YouTube, and everybody in the community is just having a good time. One of my favorite parts about rAge is that this is a community-driven event. So everybody that's in the chats, we usually are like at the LANs or like supporting our favorite local teams, or like just milling around looking for specials and just having a good time. And we can do that virtually now. See, Shani's out there, Sim's out there, everybody's in the chat like having a good time. If you guys have got friends and you want to hang out today and you want a social distance, this is the best place to do it, because we're going to be talking about games. We're going to be, there's prizes. You know, we have those t-shirt throwing competitions, like, well, at rAge, everybody gets super pumped. We have, like, you know, virtual versions of that. Like, you know, we try to make rAge as rAge-like as we can, right? So, and the thing that makes rAge is each other. And I firmly believe that. And you'll see a little bit later, I made like quite a heartfelt film about it, a little movie about it, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without rAge and without the help of this community. So I'm like extremely indebted. So a couple of things that are going to be happening today. Firstly, the entire schedule, if you want to know everything that's happening over the course of the weekend, is on rage.co.za. So rageexpo.co.za. Please go check that out. If there's anything specific that you want to catch up on, or if there's something that you want to focus on, do that, because I know we understand you can't necessarily watch the whole weekend, although we'd love you to. That would be great. You can also go check out some of the content partners that are available right now with rAge at rageexpo.co.za. There's also something called Virtual Bingo, what I'm sure was Michael's idea. It was BNG0 mission card, which is you know, game elite speak, rAge systems, and you can, that's going to be really exciting as well. Go check that out on Twitter. If you haven't yet followed Rage Expo on Twitter, please do. It's at Rage Expo. There's some amazing people that are going to be looking after socials. Shani is one of them. Go tweet rAge, go follow, go be a part of it, go join the bingo thing. It is free, and we've got prizes to give away. There's loads of other things to win and other ways to win, and you'll find that out on the website as well. And also, if you are interested in streamers and local streamers, I know a lot of us here are, especially those of us on Twitch who are watching this on Twitch, we watch a lot of streamers. A lot of us are streamers ourselves. There is something that rAge is doing this year to uplift the community, like they do every year with a whole bunch of different initiatives, and that's called the Streamer Zone. That starts at 12. So make sure that you go and support them, and there are going to be rAge loot boxes at that time that are up for grabs. Coming up shortly after I have done this welcome, we've also got Kevin Malta and Glenn Casella. They're going to be doing the Gaming Careers Day, because if you're interested in getting a gaming career or a career in video games, no matter what it is, whether it's in the business side of it, if it's a live streaming side of it, if you want to be a content creator or a writer or a game developer. They're just like, it's an incredibly large, industry as a whole, and South Africans have a lot to contribute. We've got people like Tech Girl, Samurai. She's hosting like esports tournaments overseas, and we've got game developers like down in Cape Town doing games like Broforce. So there's just so many different aspects to this industry that you may not even have been aware of, and you might not think that you have the skills yet, but you actually do. And by chatting or listening to Glenn Casella and Kevin Malta chat and have their careers day, please go and check that out. So that's going to be happening shortly after this. And then if you go through to the website and you go have a look at the schedule, you're going to see that there's a ton of exciting things. So later today, we've got the history of esports that Sam is going to be doing. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how excited I am for rAge and what this rAge means to me. Tendor is he's doing it's called the streaming handbook. So if you are interested in streaming, Tendor Plays is one of my favorite local streamers, and I'm so happy that he is doing this series. And you have to watch every single part of it, please. That starts at 7:15. We have an artist, Steven Spinas. He's getting interviewed at 7:45. He's a brilliant artist locally. Rechard van der Berg. I always say. I think he just likes to be called Rechard van der Berg, but I call him Van der Berg. I don't know why. It's because at the beginning of his name. He's going to be chatting about some mobile gaming. Of course, he's deep in the PUBG mobile scene. We're going to start seeing some cosplay at 8:15. And then we're going to have a jam. We're going to have a party at 8:30. This is one of the other things that we can do when we are doing rAge virtually, is that we can have stuff that we couldn't do when the dome is closed. After hours, obviously there's the LAN, but there's a couple of things that we would probably love to do. And I'm really hoping that this stream is popular enough that we have such a good time that we can continue this throughout next year in 2021, because we can still have the expo and we can still have the live stream like running in tandem. I think that'll be a really cool community drive and initiative, because a lot of people can't get to Joburg. Remember, the Coca-Cola Dome is it's a lockdown location. We have a huge party there, and seeing people face to face is amazing. But take that another level. There are so many, like thousands of people that would love to attend rAge that can't, because rAge is localized in Joburg and they can't get there. And what happens if we had something like this that was running in tandem, this huge production running in tandem with rAge every single year that people can participate in? That would be great. And part of that is making sure that we get the eyes on. And if you guys want to help out with that, make sure that you are tweeting and that you're sharing either the Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube links to the live streams. Watch on your platform of choice, and make sure that other people are watching. If you guys are at work today and having it on in the background, put a little bit of volume, share it with the office. This is a huge event for us as gamers, and I'm really excited to be a part of rAge 2020. Like it's not virtual, because it's real. It's real. It's a digital version of rAge 2020, which I like. And I think that this has a lot of future to it. But also, I think this year particularly, it's been one of those years, right, that we can all just get together, and we need each other right now. And gaming is getting super exciting. I think for a lot of us, gaming has kept us going through 2020. Those of us who are live streaming, we've been live streaming and hanging out with you guys, but also we've also had games that have just kept us through a lot of dark times, because we've been locked down, and I don't know what everybody's personal circumstances are. So there's a lot to celebrate right now. So I'm very excited. What we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be jumping through to like a 5-minute break before we jump into the Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. Make sure that you don't go anywhere. If you do go somewhere, make sure it's just to fetch a cup of coffee, or that you've got the audio on so that you can rush back to check it out. So don't leave. And then obviously I'm going to be catching up with you guys later this evening. We've got a whole bunch of cool stuff that's happening, and huge giveaways. It's rAge's 18th birthday as well. It's legal to drink in South Africa. But no, we're not giving away alcohol as prizes. We are giving away some amazing gaming related stuff. We've got some mice, gaming headsets, streaming mics, and some cool stuff. I'm just teasing it. I'll fill you in on that a little bit later. And if you want to get the full scope of that right now, make sure that you go to nag.co.za, and that's where you'll find those prizes. And don't forget, everything, the whole schedule for the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend, running from today all the way through until Sunday, is available on rageexpo.co.za. It's on the homepage. You can find the link there. So we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm really excited about this. If you guys do share it, we should have a hashtag. We should come up with a hashtag for it, if there isn't one yet. Then we can just get it like trending today. That would be excellent. Imagine rAge trended on socials today. I think that should be our main mission, is to get rAge trending on socials and get this community like speaking as loudly as possible. Anyway, guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to be launching in with Glenn Casella and the Careers Day very shortly, and I'll be checking you later this evening.
It lies deep within you and me to want more from life. It's okay to need something extra to get you there. When you and I need that boost, we choose Kick, the milk-based energy drink that helps you go out and get it. So, what are you waiting for? Kick. Oh, get it.
On challenges designed especially for their particular age group. In WRO, regular category teams must assemble their robots on the tournament day. At the international final, a surprise rule was also announced. Every year on January the 15th, WRO Association releases the challenges for the season.
It was always going to end like this. All your hard work, all your sacrifice, only sped up the process. Yourself alone. Only death awaits.
There's been a death at Thornbridge Manor. An apparent suicide. The door locked from the inside.
10 seconds.
All right.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Africa Games and Esports Careers Day taking place here at rAge Expo. We're really excited to have everyone joining us from across the continent. My name is Kevin Meltzer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Big Five Games, and we are the developers of the Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. We've got a really exciting lineup of panelists and presentations for you today. And what I'd like to do is just bring up my co-host, Glenn Casella, and welcome Glenn to the session. Hi, Glenn. How are you?
How's it? Good. It's been an eventful evening for me last night, but here I am, very, very excited for today.
Great. Well, super to have you joining us, Glenn. We really appreciate all the hard work you've put into the event up to today, and for the help you've given us, and for co-hosting this with us today. And I thought what we'd do is just set the scene for the day and what we're trying to achieve. But first and foremost, I want to just bring up some of the social handles that people can use to drive the conversation, have some of the chat. So that's what it looks like. We've got hashtag Africa Games Careers, and also the rAge Expo hashtag is hashtag rAge Expo 2020. You obviously can follow all of us on Twitter and Facebook at Big Five Games at rAge Expo. And that gives you an opportunity to be part of the conversation and follow everything that's taking place. So really excited that we've got all of that lined up, and it allows us to have a conversation. People are welcome to ask questions. Some of our sessions are pre-recorded. Some of them are live, and we will tell you what is pre-recorded and what is live. But we don't have that much time. We're trying to jam-pack everything in today. We've got 8 sessions, presentation, and if we can handle some questions, we'll certainly do that and channel that to all our participants.
It is
Glenn,
a busy day today.
Sorry.
I was saying it's a very busy day today. So I'm like, yeah, it's going to be action-packed, which I'm excited about.
Absolutely. And the main thing that we were trying to do, Glenn, is obviously just show the whole ecosystem of the gaming and esports world. You know, the aim of today is really to drive home the fact that this is an incredible industry. It is growing rapidly around the world, around Africa, and there are numerous career opportunities that are available to the youth of Africa to engage in the games industry. And we wanted to spend the day just unpacking that and talking through game development and content creation and streaming and games journalism and the education space, and cover as much as we possibly can with all these thought leaders from across the African continent, so that we really put the landscape out there of where all these opportunities are and what is the potential for individuals. I thought it'd be great for us just to go through the schedule and just show everyone kind of what's coming up over the course of the day, and maybe people can pick out the sessions for them that are really important. We would love everyone to be here for the whole day and spend the whole day with us as we are, but we recognize obviously people can pop in from time to time. So we're doing the welcoming right now. We've got an amazing presentation coming up next. That's from Mick Mann. He is the co-CEO of Singularity University. He's going to be presenting Gaming Transforming Our World. It's a presentation, I've seen parts of it before, and it's really exciting. And the reason why I wanted him to do that today is he is putting this message out to thought leaders and industry executives across the continent about the games industry and gamification and how important it is. The next is your panel, Glenn, gamers, jobs of the future. So, you know, by way of introduction, Glenn, you're a gamer and you're trying to define a career and jobs of doing gaming, but you're involved in a lot of things. And I think we're just trying to drive home, this is real, it's professional. You know, you can be a gamer, you can earn an income. It's hard, but you can be a gamer, and that can be your job, and that can be your
career. And just to jump in there, I think what's really exciting about today, and as we obviously go through the schedule, I think it's about actually talking about those things, right? About like how people that are very passionate about this, how are we getting involved, how do you build your career? And I think that's such an important conversation to be had, because I think, there's a lot of passion in this space, right? There's a lot of passion, but I think it's also important to know how to do it, how to get involved, what mistakes to avoid, and just like how to get do something really, really well here. So I think it's super, super exciting, especially with that panel. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Great. Following after that, we've got job creation in esports. We have Wanda Makiza from VS Gaming Telkom here in South Africa, along with Warren Barkhuizen, who's with ATK Esports. And we're really talking job creation because between those two organizations, they've created job employment opportunities for probably a couple of hundred people now that they've managed to hire into their organizations. And they've both invested, huge amounts of money into the space. And, I think that's a really impressive thing for us to look at and reflect back what they've done. And the fact that they have actually created real jobs that people are participating in today. After that, we've got developing games in Africa. So that's our games development section. We've got Pippa Shabalala that's hosting that. And Pippa I often describe as the closest thing we've got to a real celebrity in our games world here in South Africa. She is a jack of all trades, a bit like you, Glenn, that's done so many different things.
She's an OG though, hey? I mean, that was someone that inspired me to do what I do in this space in a lot of ways, so...
I agree. She definitely has been on the scene for since the early days and has really been driving it forward. And we've got some really interesting panelists there. We've got Johanna Rico, who is with Unity Technologies. Unity, of course, the major game development platform that is helping thousands of developers develop games around the world. We also have Iram Tawira from Leti Arts in Ghana. And we also have Dominic joining us, who's an independent game developer out of Zanin. So we've got Zanin covered in Limpopo, we've got Ghana, and Joanna's joining us out of Brighton in the United Kingdom. Right after that, we've got content creation and streaming. I think this was one of your most exciting sessions, Glenn, and this was pre-recorded. You got to do some really great one-on-one talks with Super Dave and Sam Wright.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting about that was that one-on-one interaction. I think it created like a really good in-depth conversation. I mean, both of them as well, very, very, very sort of, seniors and veterans in the scene as well, and really cool insights from that. So I think that one-on-one sort of interaction or format is going to be really, really cool to really get a lot of information out of those two. So definitely don't want to miss that.
And I want to add something else that's coming up over the rAge weekend. Obviously, we're part of rAge. rAge runs today. It runs Saturday, tomorrow, and Sunday. Tender Plays is doing the Plays Handbook to Streaming, which is really, fits totally in with our content creation and streaming discussions. And I'm going to encourage all the participants today to make sure that you catch that. The schedule is available on rAge Expo site, and you can see when that's taking place. But that'll just help drive home the point around what are the do's and don'ts of streaming and the best way to do that. And then as we move into the afternoon, we're talking esports. So we're going to look at how to play in the fastest growing sport in the world. We've got Nick Holden hosting that session. It's a really exciting session because we've got, esports players, we've got esports teams there. Nick runs various esports competitions, so we've got a really eclectic audience there, and it represents the entire continent. We've got Chalwe Shabakuli joining us from Team Gematrix in Zambia. Gabriel, of course, with Ikazi Esports, a regular on the scene, and also an OG that's been around for some time and flying the flag of esports in South Africa, of course. Julia Bianchi, who is a professional esports player with Goliath Gaming. And then we also have Yusuf Mazen joining us from Anubis Gaming in Egypt. And they're doing some really impressive things there. And I think sometimes we forget that, North Africa is part of Africa. It is part of our Africa games and esports community, and there's a lot more collaboration and work we can do with that scene, and we really should be thinking about that because we are connected. It just sometimes sub-Saharan Africa tends to focus on certain activities, and then North Africa seems to be doing something different. And the aim of today, of course, is we're just trying to make sure that we're driving community, we're bringing people together, we're sharing opportunities, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more with the guys up in North Africa after this.
And I think that's also really cool about today as well, right? It's about showing like the Africa. And I think we don't often have, and I mean, you and I have had this conversation so many times around there's so many cool things happening across the continent. And I think what's really exciting about today as well is that we're getting insights from people outside of just South Africa as well, and really looking at what the continent's doing and finding ways to sort of cross-pollinate and do things together. So I think that's also, one of the conversations that, isn't had enough. But I think there's some really, really cool things happening across the continent. So it'd be very, very cool to get that insight from people all over it.
Agreed. We were careful in how we curated all the speakers to make sure we're truly representative and we're diverse across the continent. The next panel, I'll be hosting that. It's how to grow esports careers opportunities in Africa. And there we're going to be talking to Desiree from ESL in France, Barry from Metal State, and Kofi Latsu is joining us from Senegal. And right after that, we'll dive into journalism and gaming, esports, and covering the industry. To me, one of the most important panels, actually, because this area with Iffy from Afro Gamer, Sam Cook out of Esports Insider in the UK, if we don't tell the stories, if we can't cover what's going on in the industry, no one knows about it. Brands don't get exposure, they don't get visibility, fans don't. So I think it's a often neglected area of the industry. And Glenn, how I first came to know you was a writer. Your game reviews you were doing with it for Critical Hit, Huffington Post, South Africa, etc. That's how I discovered you and read what you were writing about game reviews and how you were covering the industry. So really important. I'm looking forward to you hosting that. And the final panel back to me, and it's games and education, how to access and grow gaming at schools and universities. Again, a very eclectic panel. We have joining us Bukola from Kucheza Gaming in Nigeria, Nolene with Northcliffe High here in Johannesburg. She's been running an esports club there for 10 years. And Dr. Mark Williams joining us out of Miami with his university there, Florida Memorial University, where he's been growing and pushing esports at the university level. And some great insights that'll come out of that around, starting off esports in schools and universities, and then develop it, and then also where do you take it and how's it going to move forward, and we'll see what's happening in the States, because we all recognize, our market is still quite nascent, early stage, we're growing, but there's a lot of things happening overseas in other countries that we can replicate. And the education space and what's been happening in the education, particularly for us at Big Five Games, is one of the most important things. And then coming up to 4, we're going to wrap up. We're going to do some questions, of course, and we'll also just, I guess, Glenn, you and I can pull out our highlights of the day and share that with the audience. And just to start, I thought a video that would be really interesting to just set the scene around what this is about, and that people should be following this from a passion of love for gaming, not just trying to follow the money, is from Coach Elaine. He is an esports coach with Generation Esports out in the States. I saw him put this on TikTok. It really spoke to me. I'm going to play it now. I think I'll play it before every session almost, because it's really important. So let's see what he had to say around getting into esports gaming as a profession.
Do your parents not let you stream, or they don't support your video game habits? Here's the biggest reason why. You're setting the wrong expectation. Can you make a bunch of money streaming? Yes. Can you make a bunch of money playing video games? Yes. But first and foremost, it is a hobby. And just like any other hobby, you can turn that into a career. You can turn that into a very lucrative career. That's not the expectation you set. Think of it like this. Fishermen can make a lot of money. As a kid, do you approach your parents and say, hey, can I have some fishing gear because you can make a lot of money? No. You say, hey, this is an experience I've never had and I really want to try it out and I think I'd be really good at it. Parents respond to that. When you approach your parents and say you can make a bunch of money streaming or playing video games, they just think it sounds like a get-rich scheme and they don't believe it. But if you can convince them it's something that's going to make you really happy and it's an experience you really want, that goes a long ways. Pair that with promises of good grades, physical activity, and just in general being a good kid to your parents. I don't know, try it out. Do your parents not let you stream, or they don't support?
I thought that was really valuable advice. He's really just saying, don't just go and try and say, I want to make a bunch of money, because there's money in the games industry and it's worth $160 billion globally. We really do need to take it carefully. And when you approach your parents to get their support, be realistic about it. Approach them as, I have a passion, I want to pursue this, it's a love. And if it turns into something, you can make money out of it and it turns into a profession, that's fantastic. But if it doesn't, don't set up all those expectations. It can cause issues, obviously, for parents. And as he said, it sounds like a scam when you come and say, I'm going to make a ton of money playing video games. Sounds like a scam to your parents. Let's try and make them confident in what we're trying to do here.
Look, even I had to convince my mom, at the beginning of my career around going like, listen, I really love what I do. And I think also the point of today as well is you're not going to come to watch here to get quick tips on how to make a lot of cash. I think it's about kind of, how do you build a career that's sustainable and that you can do what you love and do it in the right way. And I think that's, that's what a lot of people are going to hear from people here today. People that have really done incredible things in the scene. And it's about saying it is hard work, but here's how we're going to show you how to get there and to do it in a way that's sustainable. And so I think that's a really, that video is really, really great in terms of kind of setting those expectations up front, because I think, often people look at, global stats and it's going, cool, like we have our own scene. And again, why I think it's so important about talking about Africa is we have our own thing going on here. With our own perspective. And I think that's what makes today really exciting. It's about finding how different people across the continent are really building careers and trying to build a sustainable scene.
Awesome, I agree. And where our opportunities are, not necessarily, what's happening overseas, but where our opportunities are, but also just to make front and center for everyone. We're part of the global community. And that's why I'm so excited where the games industry in Africa is going. We're doing games and esports in Africa, but we're doing it for the world at the same time. And we have a fantastic opportunity of accessing a much larger market than exists just here in any individual country or even on the continent. And that's why I think that this is such a game changer. Excuse the pun, but games and esports.
There it is.
Early in the day,
we've got our
today,
already.
I think. This is an industry that people want to get behind, want to be part of. It's growing tremendously fast, and there's huge opportunities coming out of that. And I think that's probably the best way to introduce our first speaker of the day and first presentation. We have Mick Mann joining us. He's the co-CEO of Singularity University South Africa, and also Man-Made, a company that does amazing events, has also developed a video game previously. And Mick's just going to do a presentation talking about gaming transforming our world. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've seen parts of this before. It's a fantastic presentation, and he really does drive home the fact that globally this is exploding. There are huge opportunities for everyone, and it really should be taken very seriously by parents and the youth across the continent as well. So let's bring Mick up into the studio to join us. And Mick, there you are. Hi Mick, how are you?
How's it, Kev? Good and you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Thanks for joining us today, Mick. Appreciate it. So
I love the
without
background,
further
Mick,
ado,
by the way. Sorry, this is great setup. I love it.
You love what, sorry?
The background, your background.
Pictures.
Oh, thanks. These are just some pics from some of the events we've done over the last couple of years.
Very good. You might just have the winning background of the day. We'll give a prize out at the end of the day, Mick, but so far you're off to a winner. But Mick, let's
see the
bring it up
gaming
and
chair, then I'll be perfect.
True. Let's get your presentation up, and let's kick off, and we'll hand over to you, and Glenn and I will drop off out the studio, and we'll come back once you're done, and look forward to this. Thank you, Mick Mann.
Thanks so much, Kev. Can you just tell me when I'm up? I can only see the slides on my screen. So I think I must be up by now. How's it, everybody? It's really great to be speaking with you all today. I'm so grateful to all of you watching at home, and hope that you really enjoy this year's rAge Expo and Africa Games Esports Career Day. It's amazing that the guys are still bringing this to you online, even though we're all going through this pandemic. My name is Mick Mann. I'm the co-CEO of Singularity South Africa and Man-Made. And our focus as Singularity is to build a global community of change makers across Africa who are empowered with an exponential mindset, skill set, and network to solve some of Africa and the world's greatest challenges using exponential technology, so that we can lead the way during this technological transformation and build an abundant future for all. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm a big gamer myself, and I've always loved playing games since the days of Atari and Nintendo and Sega. And today I'm going to talk to you about the future of gaming and how it's transforming our world and why you should care. My goal in a very short time is to open your mind to the possibilities and the opportunities that are coming in the gaming ecosystem. And if you're a parent watching, I want to give you some hope that gaming is more than just fun entertainment for your kids, or just to keep them busy when you need them to be busy, but it's also a fantastic career choice, and it's an education platform. So I'm sure a lot of you watching are gamers and know who this is, but if you don't know who this is Kyle Booger, and he's been playing games since he was 3 years old. He made a deal with his parents that as long as his grades were good and he got top marks at school, he could continue playing as much games as he wants. And you're pretty much looking at the Federer of esports, or the Tiger Woods, or any one of the greats that we know in traditional sports. Because Kyle, at 16 years old, went on to win $3 million at the Fortnite Cup in 2019. This is completely amazing, because Fortnite is a very young game, and has only been going for a couple of years, but it's already topping some of the biggest sports. The prize money is bigger than some of the biggest sports in the world. In 2019, Djokovic won Wimbledon, and he won $2.9 million. And Wimbledon is a 150-year-old sport. And similarly, Tiger Woods won $2.1 million for the Masters. So Carl's already won a bigger prize pool than these greats in tennis and golf. And this is the runner-up, Harrison Palm Chang. He's 24 years old. He won $1.8 million. And I really just love the quote when they asked him, "How do you feel?" And Chang said, "It's really great representing the old dudes. Experience and composure trump everything. Fortnite is a young man's game, though." So I love it how he thinks he's one of the old guys at 24 years old, and because Fortnite really is a young man's game. The youngest players in the World Cup are around 13, and there's already over 250 million players in the Fortnite universe. And what's interesting is that if we look at how this is developing, Carl now has signed up with Gary Vee, who's one of the biggest celebrities in social media, and he's an incredible thought leader. He created a new company called Vayner Gaming, which is an esports agency representing esports players. And he's already, doing some big deals with Carl, sponsorship deals with brands, earning a lot more revenue. And Carl now has over 3 million followers on Twitch already. So this is a huge new avenue for Carl going forward in the future, and many other esports players. So if we think about this new digital economy, there's more than 5 billion people in the world who own mobile devices, according to the GSMA report. That's 66.5% of the world's population already have mobile devices. And of that 5 billion people, there is reported to be 2.7 billion gamers in 2020. 2.7 billion people will play games in 2020, and 2.6 billion of those play on mobile devices. So, and this is expected to rise to 3 billion by 2023. That's a lot of people playing games, and it is an incredibly huge economy and market to look at. As we heard Kevin say a bit earlier, the gaming market is around $160 billion in 2020, and broken up into various different segments. We've seen incredible rises in the gaming industry, with mobile being the bulk, with a massive 13% increase at $77 billion. PC gaming is up at 4.8% with $36 billion, and console gaming is at $45.2 billion with a 6.8% increase year on year. Now, this has obviously had a massive increase because of the pandemic. Many more people are moving towards games and gaming platforms. However, this market is still projected to reach over $200 billion by 2023. And gaming is already much bigger than the movie industry and the music industry combined, and stretches across many different verticals and industries. So it's not only in entertainment, gaming, which is pretty exciting and quite amazing that this is only the start of this rise in gaming. Gaming also has huge physical and mental benefits. When you're playing games, it can help you with your hand-eye coordination. It improves problem solving and strategic thinking. It expands memory capacity when playing games. It also helps kids who struggle with attention disorders, and it helps kids become more computer literate when playing games. I don't know, for you adults, if you want to improve your reading and your writing, there's a great app called Elevate. This is a game that helps improve certain skills such as listening, writing, reading, speaking, and math. What's brilliant about this game is you play these short games that help you improve, say, your synonyms or your subtraction in maths. I've been playing this for a couple of weeks, and my maths has never been this good. And it's so simple and easy to play. I really recommend this. And the exercises get harder and harder as you get better at the different skills. And I mean, if you do this for a month, you'll see massive increase in your reading and your writing and your listening, and it will make you a lot sharper as an individual. So this is a great game for learning and upskilling yourself. Then there's also games like Minecraft. Minecraft is educational because it enhances creativity, problem solving, self-direction, collaboration, and other life skills. In the classroom, Minecraft complements reading, writing, maths, and even history learnings. It's both fun and educational, Minecraft, and it's easily one of the best video games for kids. Minecraft. It's very easy to learn and to start playing right away. During the pandemic, what I thought was really interesting is that 2 UK-based Minecraft players ran a fundraising drive for poor communities in South Africa, and nearly 700,000 gamers tuned in across the world, which drove about 2 million rand, which they raised for this charity, about 2 million rand through this initiative, which is really, really amazing. Through a game, they could do this during the pandemic. Another incredible game worth mentioning is Roblox. Roblox is worth billions of dollars now. It's an online game platform and game creation system that allows users to program games and play games created by other users. A friend of mine who's a famous futurist and one of the top voices on LinkedIn, Kathy Hackle, who spoke at our Singularity South Africa Summit this year now, so I was asking her around Roblox, like, what do you think about it? And she said, what was funny for her is that she asked, her son plays Roblox, her 9-year-old, and she asked him, what is Roblox? Is it a cool game? And he responded, it's my community, Ma. It's where I hang out with all my friends. So what does this mean when these gaming platforms are being considered as the new social networks for the upcoming generation? Will they? It's much more immersive. It's there's so much more interactivity and functionality that you can do than a traditional social network. So will the youth growing up in these gaming platforms want to even engage in a platform like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or some of the older, more traditional social networks, if you could call it? Also, if you look at how gaming, the business of gaming, how it's changed, even just from the 90s. In the 90s, you would buy a full game for a certain price. Now you flash forward to today, and you only get a little bit of that game. You get it works on a freemium model. You get the introduced to the game for free, and then as you want to continue developing and growing in that game, you have to pay for different parts of the game or things like skins, and it's got their own currencies now. So it's ultimately increasing the gaming revenue exponentially, and different games are creating their own financial ecosystems around them. And I can't wait to see how this develops in the future and how these digital currencies could actually compete one day with real currency. Then if we also just go back to the rise of esports as an example, the Fortnite World Cup, which was held in 2019, had 40 million players into the tournament. It was held in the Arthur Ashe Stadium, where the US Open tennis is normally played. They had over 23,000 players take part, 23,000 attendees take part in watching the World Cup. There was a $30 million prize pool with a $3 million first prize, as I said. So this is really incredible to see. I mean, this is some of the biggest production in the world. That is a game that is, very, very young. It's less than 5 years old, and is already competing and is at a scale much bigger than anything we've ever seen. And if we look at global esports revenues, they will grow to about $1.1 billion in 2020, a year-on-year growth of 15.7%, up from $950 million in 2019. Now, if we think about esports and some of the players, I don't know if anyone knows this guy. This is one of the top players in the world. His name is Kuru Kuroki Takasomi. He's the captain of a Dota 2 team, and he makes a salary of around $4 to $5 million a year playing games, a full-time job that he loves. Now, don't underestimate how much effort goes into this. He is a complete professional athlete, and he's won over 40 gaming tournaments and been runner-up in a number of tournaments in the last couple of years. In the last decade, actually, and he's considered one of the top 5 Dota players of all time. And it was also like another Federer or Tiger Woods that we're looking at with Kuroki. Another, just going more towards the celebrity side of gaming. I'm sure most people know who this is. This is Tyler Ninja Blevins, and he makes almost $1 million a month playing video games and specifically Fortnite. He's got many different outlets for getting this revenue. He gets his revenue from subscriptions, from ads, from donations, and from sponsorships and through branding deals. And they say he makes over $10 million a year through doing this. So this is he's one of the outliers. He's one of the top in the world, but this is the type of scale you can get to, which wasn't possible as a career before. We've seen the rise in people like Ninja. So as I come to the end already, I want to just conclude by saying, when Gary Larson came out with this funny cartoon predicting in the future of hopeful parents wishing their sons could get a job in gaming, ultimately saying that he thought gaming would take you nowhere in this ad, in this comic. But what he was actually doing, he was predicting the future and this multi-billion-dollar industry that is on this exponential growth curve. So to all the parents out there, you can go easy on your kids and work out how they can be responsible and embrace the future of gaming as a development tool and as a possible career path. Because gaming is transforming our world in so many ways, with so many opportunities to explore. There are many different jobs in gaming, from playing games to being a commentator on games, to being a sportscaster, to being a coach, to looking at sponsorships and being an agency. It's just such a wide plethora of jobs and careers you can go into in gaming. And we need to pay attention to this incredible ecosystem and industry as it permeates our lives and grows exponentially commercially and converging into everyday tasks. So I really believe we can use gaming to change the world, to help future-proof Africa with new jobs and careers in the digital world, and contribute to making people's lives better. We just need to ask ourselves, how can we play the right way so that we all win? Thank you so much.
Mick, thank you for that. That was amazing. Thank you so much. That was really great.
Thanks, Kev.
Such interesting content. And to your point, when you're asking this audience that's watching, we've got over 500 people on Twitch. There are 80 people on YouTube. We're also on Facebook. When you say to this audience, do you know who this guy is or this girl is? Yes, we know who all the people are. This audience does know that and does see those individuals. Absolutely. I've often referenced they are the role models. We're just trying to work out our own story here in our own way of, where we're going to find Africa's ninja, Tyler Blevins in Africa. Exactly. How do we find that, and that's what this whole day is about, is looking towards the stars of the future. Mick, we're going to keep you in, and Glenn, I'm going to hand over to you so we can start our first panel session, which was talking about gamers, jobs of the future, which is a lot what Mick was talking about here. So let me just tee this up. Glenn, of course, hosting. We've got Kwesi Hayford joining us from Ghana. He is the head of the Esports Association of Ghana and is a very well-recognized role player across Africa. Mick's coming back in for this panel. And then Nusra Solomana, who is joining us from France, Paris, who is with Gameloft. And Gameloft is a massive game development or publisher of games and also develops their own games and is really driving gaming across Africa with a number of telcos. Thanks very much. Glenn, I'm handing over to you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kev. Everybody, welcome. Hello. This is the start of the day. I mean, I think it's quite an exciting day, and I really do love how the variety of everybody. And Kev obviously has given everybody an introduction to who you guys are. I always like to start these kind of sessions about sort of how you got into the space that you're in. I think that's always quite an interesting conversation to begin with, and then we can go into obviously the conversation around gamers and the jobs of the future, because obviously we do feel that this is quite an exciting space. Kwesi, I'm going to start with you. Just kind of explain sort of how you got into the gaming space very briefly, and then we can kick it all off.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me. How I got into the space, I think that my love for comics, my love for art, my love for digital experiences. So that basically, I've been in design also. So I mean, whilst I was a kid, I was interested in comic books, and the only way to do that is also to draw them, right? So I began drawing them, and that propels my interest in gaming.
Amazing. Nusra, you're up next.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, everyone. I'm really happy to be part of this
this moment event. So for me, it was when I was really young. I used to love to play. I played a little, and the thing is that I was always asking to my parents to play more and more, and then they were just like, "Yeah, you're average student, so you need to focus on studies." And then I was like, okay, let's just enjoy how to draw, and same as Crazy, and enjoy all the comics, all the mangas, all the animes. And then when I grew up in high school, I was like, yeah, this is an amazing field. I would be happy to do that if I don't succeed in any other field or whatever, because my parents were really strict on where I should go and so on. So it was funny to see me evolving through the years and be more related to the game industry, and then at some point being like, oh, trying a game from a tablet, and then love that experience and being back again at gaming. And then I was like, yeah, this is me in a few years working for a gaming company like that, and then that's all.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Mick, and then you're up next.
Yeah, well, similarly, great to be on the panel with everyone. Similarly to Nusra, I also started playing games when I was a kid, and had a love for Wonder Boy, and had a clock. That Wonder Boy game was a big thing for me. And then I would go every day with my brother. We would get dropped off to play Street Fighter, and have 20 senses and compete with each other till our 20 cents coins ran out. And then subsequently, I always grew up with a love for gaming, and then we've got a brand experience agency called Man-Made, and we started a gaming studio in around 2005, making advert games. So for clients, so we've been making games for about the last 15 years, mainly around the advertising space. And we've made a couple of games on Steam that have been a bit of a challenge as an independent game developer.
Yeah. No, that's great. And again, what I love about it as well is kind of like, there's this passion everybody has in the space that we're in. And, it's about, and I guess, obviously this is what the panel's about, right? How do we actually create those jobs? So Mick, I'm gonna start with you, because you've warmed up already, because you started you started the chat already, and you're giving a few tips. And I think, let's get right into it, right? In terms of creating, jobs and the jobs of the future, I think, let's start off by saying, how do people even get into the space, right? How do people sort of start to understand the industry and the scene, and with all the different personalities and varieties, and there's so many things, there's so many ways people can get involved. How would you, let's say someone's fresh in the scene, they know they love gaming. How, Mick, would you sort of suggest people to start approaching getting involved in a more serious capacity?
Well, I think the first step is to engage with the ecosystem. Start, watching depending what part of the industry you want to get into. Start looking online, watching Twitch, following a few players, following some tournaments, and really just find your niche and what you're good at in the industry. If you're a young kid, I would suggest you to start learning different gaming platforms, because I believe that these gaming platforms are going to be a huge provider of skills that we need to learn in South Africa. So Unity or Unreal, try to take an Unreal course online or a Unity course online, and just start learning the platforms. Because once you learn the platforms, you'll start to uncover a whole bunch of opportunities, and then really drive where you see yourself in the industry.
No, and that's a great way to start that conversation. So with you, I think what's really exciting as well with you is kind of your, being at Game Life. I think your understanding of the bigger picture is really exciting, and I'm sure. Look, I'm a nerd. I love data. Like, I love seeing all of the information, the data's out there. I'm sure you have access to tons of it, and I'll be fighting you to get some of it later. But I think with you, with the bigger picture, perspective that you have, what's your take on people trying to come into the scene and to create those jobs of the future?
So there is different way to see gaming, because obviously the first way to see gaming is like playing games, then drawing, and then creating the games and be really into that part. But as Mike was saying just before, you can also be part of of a pro gamer and build podcasting and do all the stuff regarding all the streaming. But then there is all the backhands of the gaming industry where you can make a lot of money, where you monetize everything. And then there is all the sales, there is all the marketing, there is all the HR, because in a big company such as Gameloft, not everyone is as passionate as gaming, you know. If you talk to if you talk to the HR, they will say, yeah, we play casual games. We have like 3 or 4 games. We have 3 or 4 games into our mobile phone. So that's a good start. If you go and talk to the accounting, sometimes we have really professionals coming from external companies, and then when you ask them, and they're just like, gaming, yeah, like we do have like 1 or 2 games into our phones. It's still the same, and they're still working in that gaming environment. So it depends of you, how do you relate to games, how passionate you are. It's just like if you're a casual gamer, you can still find something to work on and be part of that industry. And if you're a really pro gamer, you can, or you're really more passionate on the gaming or whatever, there's so many other fields that we are creating right now. And I think it's all related to the pro gamers and how they evolve, how to show that industry, make it more professional, to make it look like more like a sport also. So it's kind of various in the way it's evolving. There is so many things. I think that's the jobs that we have right now. It's like maybe 10% of what we will have in the future, because so many offers will appear through times, and most of the people are going to create them, I think, also.
And, I love the point that you made as well, is like, obviously we're talking about, careers within gaming and esports, but it's not, obviously when people say that, everyone obviously thinks, game developer, game designer, pro player. It's like, you need accountants in the space, right? You need accountants, you need HR. There's like so many, and I think that's really, really such an important point you've made already. It's like, it's not just gaming. That we need as jobs, and that's again why I talk about jobs of the future, right? It's all those things like accountants and HR and all those different spaces or positions that people don't really associate with gaming. But I mean, we're a massive industry. I mean, that's what we're trying to get into. So that's a really, really great point. Crazy, you do not need any more passion, because you're all there with it. And I think with you, it's quite an exciting thing to kind of hear your perspective about it, because again, and obviously we've spoken before, it's you're really trying to just build and pave the way for everybody. So I think with that idea, with that perspective of you building something that's not really set up in your space yet, how do you approach this idea of creating a sustainable industry and scene and the jobs that come with it?
Okay, so for me, the very first part that comes to play is the word play, and I explained that the gift of play is a powerful tool, and it's a powerful experience. When you think about play, you think about participation, right? And the next level of gaming, or what I always say, the fundamental rule for every game is problem solving. And when there are problems, it's a good place for what? Development. It's a good place to make money. It's because you need to solve them. And that is what basically games are for. So you could channel that energy, you could channel that introduction for kids. So if parents could even understand that every game is building the intellectual capacity of a child to solve a problem, that and at the end of the day, that game or that experience becomes a tool for the child to develop themselves into what they want to become. And that also opens up a wide array of job opportunity or career opportunities, which are in the future, because every game that solves a problem, every game creates an environment, every game is developed upon certain mindset and principles that you need to develop. And when children or when we approach it with the play kind of a feeling, I need to play this and enjoy it as well. And then it creates the very pivot for careers that are in the future. I would say that, for instance, people want to learn how to fly aeroplanes, right? Pilots and stuff like that. A gaming like Flight Simulator is a good option for I know a friend that was so passionate about Flight Simulator, and he is a pilot now, right? And that kind of experiences you get through playing these games.
And I love that, because I remember one of the favorite documentaries I watched was actually the guy that created Gran Turismo, and he spoke about, he's a passionate car driver. He loves cars. He loves the culture around it. And I think that's what inspired him to make Gran Turismo the game that it was. Back then. And I think that's a really, really great point you've made. And I think again, and I'm going to bring it to Mick, because I think it's quite an important balance, is this idea of passion and really wanting to do something incredible with what you love, but then balancing with the fact that, trying to create a sustainable industry and jobs. And, you were speaking about it before in your previous presentation around, how to do it the right way, and obviously with the expectation of society and the world and those things. So, Mick, I think with you, like, how would you sort of advise people to find that balance between the passion of what they love and being gaming and everything around that, but then also, doing something sustainable? I mean, you started to hint already around, the struggles of, building things in the space that we're in, because it's still quite new.
So I think there needs to be a balance. You need to decide, depending on what part of the industry you're going to take part in, there needs to be a balance. So it shouldn't affect you negatively in other areas of your life. If you're a student, you should still do well at school, unless like you're living in Asia and you go to a gaming school and then that's your focus. But otherwise, there should be a balance in your life.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a growing industry that you can just see it's on this growth curve that's extraordinary. So, anyone that's getting into this industry, there are so many different ways, as we've heard from Nizra and Kwezi, to get involved. And it's not only about entertainment. It can be about development. It's learning. I've got a friend that has a business called Yellow, and it's a solar business. And what he's done is gamified his entire business, because the employees, he works in Nigeria and Mauritius and all across Africa selling solar panels. And he created a game for his employees. So you have a base salary and you have to complete every single task in the business is for a certain amount of points. And if you get those points, you can get way more than your salary, and you can get triple bonuses for really working hard. So you can use, gamification strategy in business. It's not only for entertainment. And I believe that in the future, in the next 5 to 10 years, many businesses will be using gamification to motivate and incentivize employees, because it just works. And the kids growing up are so used to this methodology of earning coins or points, or getting unlocking things by working hard. So it actually, it actually teaches the kids to work hard by playing games.
No, please go.
Yeah, Mike, you just hit it out that when you say that it's a real hard work, and people normally think that gaming is not a real hard work. I mean, playing hard is real hard work, and you really have to understand every principle that goes within the gaming space and get yourself really working hard towards that. So playing games is really hard work as well.
I agree.
I mean, if you look at the athletes, Carl Booker, I think he plays like 10 hours a day or something. He studies different strategies in the morning, and then he's spending his whole day playing. So it's very serious, yeah.
Nizra, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say that the gaming industry is not seen yet as a gaming industry. It started to be seen as a gaming industry at the moment we got locked down, and we saw like a lot of people starting to play, and then they saw all the money that was generating after 1 month of lockdown. They were just like, whoa, how come that so many people are playing first? How come that within 1 month companies are able to make millions of of dollars just because people are playing games, and they were just like, so this is a real industry. So it's changing a little bit, little by little, and I'm sure like I always say like we'll see a huge difference in 5 years, but I feel like we already are into that change of perception of that industry. There is a lot that is going to happen in the coming months, years, because people are locked down and we don't know when we'll get out again and be able to enjoy. So meanwhile, we'll find ways to still go to pubs, even if it's online, and and discuss with people, even if it's on Sims or whatever type of or my little, like there is always different type of games where you can interact with other people. So yeah.
And that's such a great point that you make as well, because I think COVID was such an interesting time because people got told, the world was told, stay inside, stay indoors, and for gamers we were like, oh, okay, well, this is easier for me now because I can just stay in front of my computer or my TV. Like, nothing really changed for us in a lot of ways. But no, I think yeah, but I do think that's been an exciting time, because I think it's really given a spotlight on gaming. But it's so interesting you said, even for someone that's working in a big company that that's there in a space that money's behind it and believes in gaming, there's still that fighting that perception. And Mick, you've mentioned as well in your presentation, we've spoken about it now, around how do you fight that perception that people still think gaming is it's a fun thing, and Chris, you've said it as well, that it's a fun thing to just have a good time and it's not serious. As someone that's made it and you're in the scene and you're at Game Loft, this big company, like how do you fight that perception around, like, in the personal capacity, right, around your friends and family? How do you still try to justify, not justify, but you know what I mean, how do you show them that it's a real serious thing that you're doing?
So I use 3 KPIs. The first one is there is 2 billion of players around the world, which means that there is at least one among 4 people that is a gamer. That's the first. So then when you say that, and obviously in general, when I have a meeting, I say we have like maybe 8 people. So this means that there is me and there is someone else between you who play. And then, so that's the first. And then the other thing is just like, so this is an industry that brings a turnover each year of 250 billions dollar, and at that point people just start listening to me because they're just like, so this industry brings that much of money, like, and you're just like, yeah, it's even a lot more than the music industry. This is a lot more than just like the other entertainment industry. So if you look at the cinema and so on, obviously they bring a lot of money, but we drive more, and they just like start to listen. And then there is a third KPI that I like to use every time that my sister comes at home, because I have some nephews now, and she's just like, no, I don't want them to play. I don't want them to be addicted and so on. I'm just like, you know what? As Crazy was saying, there is French writer who said who's really into gaming, and he said that in the wild, the way that animals learn how to survive is through gaming. So the more the game is complex, the more the animal is higher in the hierarchy. So I was just like saying, like, the more your children are going to play, the better they will be smart as taking decision. They will be quick, and they will be able to play. And if you look at how many decision pro gamers are able to take within a minute, it's like 300, if not more. So it's just like, it's a lot. And then people are just like looking at you being like, yeah, you're giving like a lot of numbers and so on. And then they're just like, so my sister is just like, yeah, maybe. But we'll decide the kind of games he's going to play. So And the thing is, like, when you, and the fourth thing, the fourth example that I will bring is, like, when you see that people like Elon Musk also provide games to their to their children, and is maybe one of the smartest guy at the moment, and he's able to do a lot of things and so on, and he's still into gaming and do competition within his company and making sure that his children are playing games. This means that there is something to understand through that, and not everything is bad regarding gaming. There is a lot to take on, and you should just take the positive and take care of the rest.
No, that's great, and I think you made some really, really great points there. And Mike, I want to bring it to you because I think, especially looking at it a South African context at least, it's hard for us to give numbers, right? Because the space is still so small and so tiny, and it's still there's a growing thing, so we don't always have the numbers to sort of back it up. But I think getting back to this conversation we're having around the jobs of the future, and really trying to go, yes, gaming, here isn't to that level yet, but it's growing every year, and the trends are showing that it's absolutely going to get there. And so if we go back to this conversation on the jobs of the future and trying to show that there's something there, how does someone that wants to get into the space, I mean, when they look at what's out there and what's available, and I mean, we've obviously started to talk around it, how do they kind of create their own pathway as well, right? Because again, what we're talking about is the future. It's not necessarily just the stuff that's here right now. It's going, things are growing, and it's going to get bigger, and there's so much more that's out there. How do people sort of start to approach that? I mean, if you're in high school now and trying to look at what career opportunities are out there, how do they sort of navigate the world of gaming in that space?
So for me, I think before Mike Mann starts, sorry to jumping. I think one of the big important thing to do is we already use social network, so you should use them as much as possible. Do a podcast. If you're 15, you're able to do that. It doesn't cost you anything. It's make you known at some point. You should be. People are on TikTok right now. They should show how they behave on playing games. They should show what is their day-to-day way of playing and enjoying games. And then at some point, because they will be into that, they will be able to move forward with everything else and find something that really suits them.
So yeah, I totally agree with Nusra there. And what's really exciting for me is the social aspect, because with my friends, we don't even talk to each other on the phone anymore. We meet in the game, So we'll put on PUBG and we'll say, let's you want to have a chat? We'll put on PUBG and have a game and have a social experience. So I think kids that are getting into this world need to use these platforms as social platforms that they can create friends and be part of a community in an online game platform. And that's a great way to sort of learn from others from all around the world. Using social experience. And what's also really exciting is the future of work. If we think about the future of work and how we're all going to be working, there's going to be a lot more remote work, and there's going to be a lot more working in these virtual reality platforms. By engaging with gaming, it sort of sets you up for the future of work, because we will be working with when the spatial internet permeates all of our lives and we're encapsulated by this virtual digital twin of the real world. You're going to, the people that have been playing games are going to be a lot more comfortable in that space and be able to get a lot more jobs in a variety of industries that maybe might not be gaming, but because you played games and because you engaged in these platforms, you'll have a head start in life. So I think that, looking at, getting into virtual reality headsets is a great thing, to start looking at as a youth, because that is going to be a massive industry and we're all going to converge into these virtual environments. So as a future of work pathway, if you play games, it will give you a lead into the future.
Yes, Mike has really said it all. But I mean, when it comes to future of work, the industrial revolution of how things pan, right? Things are changing, and gaming is always at the forefront. We are looking at the next gen, everything is propelling within our space. When the next, processor is coming, it's gaming that is used to test it out. And even when you look at what Mike said about we being in a virtual space, like artificial intelligence, AI, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, and you look at it, right? The word here I want everybody to take is precision. Precision. Precision in the sense that when you are in a game, right, you have to play it according to the rules, and you have to make sure, even let's say you are even in an open world, right, whereby in the next 30 to 50 years you have to drive your car remotely, right? If for instance, if you probably you left your car somewhere and you have to drive it home, right, remotely with your phone, which is capable, that is being tested in the game. That kind of an experience is already in the game, right? So who is the best person to be in that kind of a gear? We're looking at technology or machinery that is producing stuff. We'll need people to man it, right, remotely. And gamers are doing this already now, right? Whereby we controlling aeroplanes, and we have to be precisely, we have to do it with precision, how to land the plane, how to move around, even within PUBG and stuff like that. How to, you have to dodge a bullet. You have to make sure, like, where you walk to, precision. That's the word. And these are the experiences of the future that the gamers are experiencing now. So in the years to come, we are not really lost, because I mean, we're already doing it in the game anyway.
And I really love those points, man, because I think often with gaming, people, we always make that joke. I mean, it's one of the jokes. I mean, even in my friend groups, we say the same thing around, oh, when a zombie apocalypse happens, I want to be friends with the gamer because they're prepared for, they're prepared for the zombie apocalypse. But I think, the point you're all making is actually gaming prepares you for life. It's not really that joke of just zombies, but I think talking about the technology, the fact that games always at the forefront of that, and that advantage you get over the rest of the world. I mean, the fact that gamers understand technology, their computers, the things that we use every day. I think there's a lot of competitive advantage in that in the careers world. And I think crazy also the point you're making around precision and the technology. I think, again, we're seeing that starting to happen. You're seeing a lot of, in the sim racing world, it's becoming a huge thing where you get guys that are, driving cars in the virtual space that then actually can translate that into real life in a lot of ways. And I think that's really great. Yes, no, please
I just
go.
wanted to make something that really has helped me in my management style of leadership is the game Age of Empire. When I started learning how to play Age of Empire,
absolute classic right there.
What? It teaches you management.
Now you're showing your age.
It teaches you management. It teaches you management. It teaches you, population control, right? You know, when your population is over and you have to build houses, you have to take your military, you have to upgrade them. So I once wrote on a post that every parliamentarian in Africa should learn how to play that game, because if they learn how to play that game, they'll be able to manage the people very well, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to manage resources. You need to mine gold. You have to farm. You have to take your people to battle. You have to build up your city. You have to build walls, protection, and all that comes into play. And that is one of the key things that I believe that gaming has really helped me in my personal management style. Because then I need to manage resources, and I look at how I have to do that in the game to win the game, right? And to be effective in my own personal life, I have to do that same management style of, how do I manage my own resources physically as well? Yeah.
No, that's really, really great points. And I wish, the thing with panels, I always want to talk for so long, and unfortunately, we have to wrap up as we carry on the rest of the conversations. But thank you everybody for your time and to really give the very unique insights. It's been an amazing way to start the day, I think. So thank you to all three of you, and to everybody who's watching, guys. This is the Africa Games and Careers Day, and we're really talking around. A lot of people are coming up, will be talking around all the different aspects around careers and how to start them, and the learnings and their lessons and their insights. So it's really, this is just a great way to start the day, and it's going to carry on and continue this way.
Glenn, thank you so much for that, and to Nusra and to Mick and to Kwezi. That was an amazing session, really informational, educational, all the good stuff, and I really did enjoy it. And then it was just a great vibe I think you guys had going there, Glenn. It seemed like all of you guys just enjoyed that. And we've got a lot of viewers out there, and particularly across the continent, we're seeing people on the different streams coming through. So really great that we're talking to the African story. And thanks for hosting that, Glenn. I thought it was an amazing session. As I said, lots of great facts and figures and good info for us.
Absolutely. No, look, we could talk for hours about it, and I think that's what I always enjoy about this. There's so many, a lot of great insights from different people. So yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to share again, Glenn, just the social slides so people know the hashtags if they want to join the conversation. Hashtag Africa Games Careers and hashtag rAge Expo 2020 is the rAge Expo hashtag. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, both for rAge Expo and our company, Big Five Games, and we can continue the conversation there, and happy to take any questions. So thanks very much, Glenn. I'm going to line up the next session that we're going to do, that I'm going to be hosting, another one of our live sessions today. And now we're going to be talking about job creation in esports. And joining me today is Wanda Makiza, the Executive Head of Content and VS Gaming at Telkom, and Warren Barkhuizen, who is the founder and CEO of ATK Esports. So let me just bring them both up into the studio to join me. There they are. Thank you, Wanda and Warren. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. It's great to see you. Thanks so much for coming through.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Warren. So I did just tee up and mention what your titles are, but the best way for us to get a better understanding of who you are, your path, your role within the gaming space is potentially for each of you just to do a small introduction for yourselves. So Wanda, I'd love to start with you and just hear a little about your role and your position within the industry, of course.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on the show. Well, I'm the Executive Content and VS Gaming at Telkom. Telkom's been in the esports game for over 12 years now. And I think the greater focus that I'm tasked with within the business is basically developing and continuing to grow our participation within the esports fraternity. As the responsibility around content and VS Gaming, it's really seeing how do we take this to the next level as we grow the industry, as well as ensure that there's a sustainability within the industry for esports as a whole. So it's an exciting opportunity for us. I work with an amazing team who are really the experts in the esports area. They've been involved in esports for over 20 years. This is Johan van Bakstrom and his capable team. And I'm kind of the face and the driver from a strategic point of view, and they really are instrumental in driving all the activities and the successes that Telkom has had within the space for the past 12 years.
Great. Thank you, Wanda. And yes, I know your team very well, and they're very well known in the whole industry, of course, and have played a very pivotal role in driving the industry forward. So, I think it was very fitting that we are talking about job creation in esports, because you've created a number of great jobs over there. And you have been in the industry for some time as VS Gaming, as Telkom, the Digital Gaming League, and bringing that forward. Warren, you're a bit newer into the industry, of course, with ATK Esports and what you've been doing. But just like Wanda at VS Gaming, I know you've made a massive investment into the industry. You really have created a number of positions and jobs and career opportunities there. So could you just give us a little bit of your introduction and maybe how you found yourself in the esports world that you're in currently?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for having me. My role in esports, while you say it's 2 years in, just over 2.5 years, I'd had an eye on esports for some time. Previously, my previous life, I was very tech focused. I had a software development company. 25 years ago now, I used to run big networks. So Shell Oil, I started with networking. So I have a very technical focus. In the early parts of my career, in fact, going back as far back as 1987, I was 9 years old. I started writing code, and one of the first things I did was write a game. So while I'm new in esports, I think I've been in gaming for longer than most people have been around. Moving in from there, from my tech background, I got into finance and hedge funds in particular, and investing. And the one thing that we had to do was look at companies and where money was flowing internationally, not necessarily here. And it became very apparent that there was a lot happening in esports internationally. There was a lot of focus, a lot of investment from big companies like Naspers, and that kind of got me interested in what had happened. You know, I'd still been casually gaming, not competing or anything like that, and it was interesting to me that, you know, it hadn't gotten as far locally as it had internationally. So that's where we got into ATK. It was just a test project. Let's invest some money and see where it goes. Let's set up a venue. Let's address where the issues were potentially, where I felt that the issues were after having spent some time looking at it, where we could help to grow the industry, which became ATK or Attack Shack, which was just 20 machines, the best machines I could buy at the time. And we installed them in a small space. Nobody would give us space or take us seriously at all. And it grew from there. There was a lot of interest initially. The intention was to throw small tournaments, not big tournaments, so kind of the opposite of what VS was doing. Just small regular tournaments that the public could come and attend and use a good machine and have stable internet and all those fun things. And it moved very quickly from there into a team. The first team that we got was picked up was an Overwatch team that was competing in one of the VS leagues, and into ATK Arena. So we now have this situation where we have 3 verticals, where we have a physical space, there's one at the moment, where you can come and use premium grade esports equipment and just kind of hang out as a gamer and exist in a space that is familiar. And we provide all the equipment that you would need for various types of games. The second is teams, a very big focus of ours. It happened a lot quicker. My intention was only after 1 year to get into teams, but that happened, within I think 3 months. And we've had some good success there. And then the next one is in events. So very regular events, not only at our venue but externally and for other people. And those are the 3 things that I focus on. So it's grown a lot quicker than the initial intention, but there's such a massive opportunity in esports, it can't be ignored. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. Certainly, we'll get to that later. A lot of opportunity in the jobs market. So I'm glad we're here to talk about that, because I get tagged in this a lot. I get asked about this a lot. So it's good that we've got a great viewership and we can answer questions.
Right. Thank you, Warren. That made a lot of sense. And I just want to reference something that you said when you said, you've been gaming a long time and esports is new to you, or slightly new. It's new to all of us. I mean, this is a very early stage new industry. It's only just starting, and no one really knows where it's going to wind up. Is it going to make it to the Olympics or not? We don't know. But we all have high expectations around where this industry is going. And I know that one of your hashtags is play seriously, and you talk about, being serious about it. And what I've respected that you've brought to the industry is professionalism, of trying to drive professional teams, professional arenas, events, and things like that. But I was fascinated that people wouldn't take you seriously early on. And one day I'll bring the question to you. I think where Telkom and VS Gaming has made a substantial impact in the industry is by helping people take the industry a little bit more seriously, because Telkom is a very respected corporate. If Telkom is putting money into the gaming space, into the esports space, it brings a lot of credibility to the industry. But we're trying to change the narrative, where today many kids are waking up wanting to be the next movie star. They don't wake up to be the next gaming star. This is what today is about. This is what we're all trying to do, is develop talent across the continent. And a big part of that is convincing parents that it's a real opportunity. Why do you think, wonder, people aren't taking the industry as seriously as they should, considering its size? It's $160 billion globally. It's growing massively. It was growing pre-pandemic, and now it's coming into the pandemic, also growing tremendously. Why do you think, people don't take it seriously? Parents don't see it as a professional career yet. What do you think's holding us back? Is it mindset? Is it access? What is it?
I think it's a mixture of all, Kevin. I think part of it, it's visibility. If you think about the esports industry, a lot of what we do, I mean, we run tournaments and leagues throughout the course of the year. But unless if you are part of the clique, part of the environment, you're not really aware of what's happening. And I think that's a lot of what we're trying to and aiming to do from a Telkom perspective, is to take it into the mainstream environment, take it into traditional broadcast environments, where people start seeing that these things are happening. Even we've got stars within our own rights. People have won within the Masters, are playing overseas, and we've done a lot within that industry, but it's still very a closed community. So when you start talking and understanding, people don't actually understand the length and breadth of it. There's a lot more comms that comes out into mainstream in the international market, but not so much in South Africa. And it's really critical that industries like ourselves or businesses like ourselves start showcasing and showing people the future, and creating those opportunities and stars and that visibility, so that everyone is aware of what's happening in the marketplace.
For sure. I agree with that. And I think you're right. It's a number of issues. And I think over time, we're going to knock all those issues down. So when I mention about access and bandwidth and connectivity, those are problems that, persist today. But over time, they will, hopefully disappear. And, we don't have the same limitations that we've had typically in the industry, and where people haven't managed to take it as seriously. Warren, back to you. Now that you've made the investment, now that you're growing, people taking it seriously, are you finding you're getting a lot more support? And to that, you've hired a number of people, you've created a lot of teams. Have you had to have quite strong conversations with some parents there, persuading them that this is a real thing, there's a great opportunity here, your kid's got talent, let me help develop it? Or have you not had to have those conversations?
That's a conversation I have quite regularly, actually. I have 3 kids, so I know what it's like. The schoolwork must come first, education must come first, but if there are people there that have a real talent, I would encourage them to try it once the schoolwork's done. Just touching on something that you were referring to earlier, VS Gaming was one of those. When VS Gaming hosted a big tournament and put some real money behind esports, that was kind of the driver for me to take it seriously. And I have to admit, I didn't understand it as well as I should have before I invested. I saw an opportunity. VS Gaming, as you say, backed by Telkom, really an industry leader and somebody that should be respected. If they're going into it, that was my indicator that I needed to get involved and take it seriously. I think a lot of parents do become concerned that there is a wasting of time element, but it's as you say, these things are getting taken seriously across the board. The Olympics are definitely 100% looking at this. The Commonwealth Games are 100% taking a look at this. I've been involved in those conversations, so that's how I can tell you that I know that they are. And it's people also should realize that it doesn't end if you don't turn out to be the top fragger in a CS team. There are opportunities that abound from this, where it's a speciality. You can get a graphic designer that will specialize in esports graphic design. You can get somebody from an engineering perspective where there are lots of opportunities. So I think that people need to look at it as a wider industry, as a big up and coming path, a career path. And as you say, I have these conversations where people say, "Can you talk to my parents?" And I said, "I'm not going to talk to them. Tell them to come down, come take a look. We'll have a proper discussion." And one of the things I try to do, actually, and we do at ATK, because as you say, it's expensive. Not everybody has fiber, or they can have access to fiber, or these like really expensive machines. The one thing I do is, if there's a parent that comes in with a child, I don't want them to go sit in the back and read the newspaper and have a coffee. We open up the machine next to their kids, and we encourage them to play together, and that really they see the value in it as a leisure activity. But when they see the real skill, and as you say, we get into the crossover point where it's going to go from Twitch and YouTube, and you only consume it there, where you'll see it is potentially on kind of more mainstream media, and it's just a norm. It will become part of the new normal. It's old sports versus new sports, as they say. I'll tell you one thing before I close off is on this topic is my wife, who is about as corporate as you get. She works for a very big a corporate company. She watches more Counter-Strike than I do these days. She will tell me when the Counter-Strike is happening. So if you can convince my wife that Counter-Strike is an entertaining sport to watch, I think everybody will find something that'll work for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, certainly it is a sport, and I think we've often had to fight that messaging. And my view around this, it changed totally over the COVID pandemic, where esports went from something saying it's not a real sport to being the only sport that was available for anyone to watch and engage with across the world. Right? There was no sports, but there was esports. And then I think something interesting happened across Africa. Africa has a large focus on sports betting, and when you saw all sports stop and you looked at any of those sports betting sites, esports was front and center as something that people could actually bet on. And I think for many people across the continent, they saw this new thing called esports. They got to recognize right away that it's a real sport because it was in there in the sports category, and there was nothing else for them to bet on or to watch. So I think we got a lot of visibility and highlight. And I'll add one more thing, maybe for parents or people out there that are the naysayers and keep saying it's not a real sport. When you want to go across the United States and get a visa to enter the United States to play esports, you're entering on the same sports player's visa that Rory McIlroy would get for golf or Lewis Hamilton would get for Formula One. My view is it's very hard to get into the United States. If they say esports is a sport and it's the same visa, it's a sport. There's no question that anyone should have about that. I think there was a great message there from Warren around how inspiring VS Gaming has been and Telkom and what you've done. And we really, do respect the investment and the work done. And I think what VS Gaming's brought to the table is this experiential element that Warren leads to. I've been to one of your FIFA festivals and many other events. And I think that's what Warren was alluding to maybe with his wife, is when you engage, you watch, you listen, you touch this industry, you suddenly start enjoying it a lot more. You start engaging with it, and it becomes easy for people to experience it. I'm more interested from your side around the job creation and when you bring people into your organization. Obviously, everyone wants to work for a gaming-centric company, right? Like it's fun and games every day. Everyone wants to be part of it. But what do you look for in individuals? What kind of skills do you need to make it within what Telkom's doing as well as generally in gaming and esports? What are those skill sets you look to?
Well, I mean, from our end, I think we're a very small team, Kevin, I must say. We're focused, a lot to have done, but also working at it from a very small team, but also the most envied team within Telkom, I think. Everyone kind of sees it as the fun and games. But I think as you get to work and interact with us, and when we look at taking people onto the platform, it's about that dedication. We're not necessarily looking for a particular skill set or educational type of background in particular. But I think what does help is what Warren was referring to. You've been part of the industry. You understand what gaming is about. You've played. You've dabbled. You've built. You've engaged within the industry, and therefore also understand the culture and the environment in which you're dealing with and the type of people that you're dealing with. And I think it's very testament to gamers. Our industry in a lot of ways will not support a professional gamer who just does gaming. So you also find that they have a multiplicity of other work careers that they follow. And we're looking for that adaptability, people who are able to kind of speak and understand the challenges that sit within our industry, but also that excitement of this is something that I see as a focal point within our business. But I think more than anything, what we also try to do is, through our foundation, is lead out into the schools as well as out into industries to start creating and identifying those careers that Warren spoke about, your coding, your things like your shoutcasters. It's there's professional gamers. There's many tiers in which careers can be built. And for us, it's about understanding and creating those opportunities and making people aware that they are available. And those are the things that we recruit for as per when we have our live events taking place. And as we're looking at more live broadcasts, also having more and more of those people participating within that space.
Right. I completely resonate with that. I really do believe that it's about being multi-skilled in this new world that we're in, and being able to be a bit of a jack of all trades, to do a little bit of everything, to be a really great generalist, but then focus on a couple of key areas that you really want to develop and get those skill sets up. Warren, is it the same for you, or is it different in what you're hiring? Because yours is quite diverse, I guess, from content creators to people that are joining your teams to people that are running the arenas and the events. What do you look for in the individuals that you're bringing on board into your organization?
I look for diverse people. A lot of the time people will come to me and say, well, they're really interested in getting into gaming, and how do I get into gaming? That's you get asked that. And the fact of the matter is, you actually do very little gaming when you're in gaming. You almost do no gaming, because there is so much to do. And every time I look, there's a new thing. And when before we went live, and when we were chatting during the week, this team has grown massively. Because we have a physical venue that takes lots of people to run. What it's like running your own gaming computer. Try running 70 of them. It's not that easy. And having multiple people coming in and doing whatever they want in them is a challenge. So and also obviously it's expensive. But when we have people coming in, I look for a good attitude. I look for an ability to adapt, because I actually don't know what's going to happen next a lot of the time. What challenges are going to come up, because we're trying to break new ground all the time anyway. People laugh at me internally. They say, you always start with, it would be cool. And then I cause a big problem in their lives, because I go, there's a gap here, or there's something that we could do to make things better. And they go, oh, okay, well, let's try it. And it's that kind of can-do attitude. Obviously, having a qualification, being savvy when it comes to tech is obviously important. Being an actual gamer helps, because then I don't have to sit and explain to you, or somebody else has to explain to you what we're getting involved in. And obviously we are in the public facing all the time. We have to be able to say to somebody who's new, hey, this has just come out, or this game has just come out, or this is what a MOBA is, or a first-person shooter, and this is why you need this kind of technology. We try to put the best technology down for people to use, and we say, well, there's a reason this costs 4 times as much as the thing that you would buy off the shelf anywhere, and this is why, and we show them. But as I was saying, we've got people from very diverse backgrounds. We've got trainers, we've got sports psychologists, because of our teams. Our team requires a sport psychology that makes the difference for our teams. Really made a big difference, and something that people find surprising. I don't find it surprising at all. I think that is, if you don't have one, you're at a disadvantage. So we did a count not so long ago, just how many people, because we add on, when we get a bit stretched, we get a new person in, and to try to pick up some of the slack. I think we capped at 70 people in the team. So that's 70 jobs directly that are paid. One thing that I always say, I don't want people to work for me for free. That is not, if you're going to be taken seriously, you should be paid for what you're doing. So there's no such thing as in my world, a player that gets paid zero, gets paid nothing. There's support that we give them, obviously, on the technical basis, but a mouse isn't going to help you, put food on the table or pay for anything. So we try to encourage a little bit of professionalism on that side. Even when we don't have people shoutcasting, there are great people out there that we look for that have a good following, that have an ability to interact, that we're looking for at that level. Anybody can sit and pick up the mic and talk about it, but if it's not engaging, it's not worth watching. So that's why we look, when we find good people, we ensure that we pay them so that they understand that they are being treated as a professional. We create some kind of standard in the industry that those people can roll with. One thing that does happen a lot is if somebody comes to me and they tick all the boxes, and I have no idea where they're going to fit in, I let them just move around. I say, well, let's start off, stick around for a month. We'll pay you for essentially an internship, and work out where it is that you think you're going to fit in, and we'll work out where we think you're going to fit in. If it doesn't work out, it would be unfortunate, but if we find somebody that has potential, because we expanded so much, there's generally a place for a lot of people and their skill set in particular in the business. So I don't worry too much about degrees, put it that way. It's a good metric, good education, ability to communicate, and some kind of diversity and ability to be dynamic is what's important to me.
Great. I think those are very valuable skills to have. I'd probably add one onto this, that it's teamwork and community is probably becoming more and more paramount for all of us. The way that I view the games and esports world is an ecosystem. There's different role players that play different roles. We can't do everything. I know, Warren, you're a typical entrepreneur. You see a gap, you say, let's fill that gap, we can do that. And often the most difficult thing of being an entrepreneur or a business person is learning what to say no to instead of just saying yes to everything. And I would give that as career advice to anyone that's watching us today. Is it's very easy to chase everything. It's not easy to say no to a lot of things, but it's easier to work out what you're not good at first and then start developing what you are good at. And I really do believe, to some of the points you guys spoke to, is we have amazing talent on the continent. More than 1 billion people, the youngest population of any continent. We really have a great talent pool, and it's up to us to try and tap into that and push down so that we can give them the opportunity of being recognized, growing into the space. And what I'm interested in from your side, there were two things that came up Warren spoke about. One is the global kind of stage, and we'll talk to that now. The second one is maybe you've created your own jobs and you've hired people and you've created careers such as your own, but also I think the investment you've made in the industry has allowed teams to develop that aren't professional as of yet, but are trying to become professional organizations. And I think that's another important part around the job creation, is we need organizations creating the infrastructure, the ecosystem for us so that we can grow. Now, we've very much done that ourselves in South Africa and Africa without too many big international players coming out here. I know that Nodwin Gaming is one company that's come from India and is investing in the African landscape, but pretty much that's it. It's all up to us. So I'm just interested from your side, Wanda, how do you think we compare, and what would you share with our audience if you looked at us in South Africa versus global, and how we compare to global role players out there in the global industry?
I think there's definitely potential. Like you rightly said, there's a lot of the work that's been done has been done locally without a lot of interference as such coming through, which has been wonderful. And we're seeing a lot of the teams moving up and within the international space and actually playing against very big teams in that space. And we're quite excited about it. I think as we start seeing and growing the industry and having a lot more people participating within the industry, I definitely see the opportunities and growth growing a lot more. I think a lot of what is exciting within the esports fraternity as well is that I think we unlike a lot of other industries, we've been able to do things ourselves, and we have the potential to do things ourselves and drive the agenda and the opportunities that we want, and be able to showcase our talent internationally. We have that space, and I think this is the best time to continue to focus and nurture and grow that within the industry locally.
I would concur with that. I think both from the professionalism of the events that we're running, as well as the leagues and the broadcasts of that, to that point, Wanda, I know that you've got a very professional studio that you have there at Telkom for VS Gaming, and it looks the part. It looks like I'm watching Sky Sports or Super Sport or anything like that. And I think that those are important things, just to up our level, up our game, and make sure that we are being seen, seriously, and we are competitive on a global scale, because this is the opportunity for us. We're part of a global community. As you say, our teams can play anyone. Warren, I know a great focus for you has been trying to get teams to be internationally recognized. You've had some initiatives around that, and obviously, the CSGO team that you had that went into Cloud9. But, are you looking now at developing talent to try and move into the global space, or are you happy that the talent has enough opportunity here, or is it absolutely fundamental that some of your teams break into the international space?
It has always been a focus to say, well, South Africans can compete at the highest level with other teams in those international events. Obviously, as you mentioned, our team got placed top 8, I think it was, in the ESL Pro League last year. So that is a real testament to that as a theory. And everybody else wants to get to that level. Sure, there's some competition here, but it's very different to the competition in Europe. And realistically, even if you get to the top in South Africa or Africa, to access that level of skill, you actually need to participate in that region. If it wasn't for COVID, we would have more teams overseas at this point. If you look at Apex Legends, for example, our team would have was actually in the USA in March, and then we had to bring them back. And the same thing, we send guys over to play Fortnite in the DreamHack events. And it is a focus that we should be exporting our guys to that very high level. There's enough talent and enough of a pool here to move at that kind of highest level internationally. And that's where you will get taken seriously. That's where you actually earn really top dollar. I mean, as much as we'd like to pay people a living wage or something where they can actually earn like a real sports person, a real sports person, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but a professional sports person, like a rugby player who's supported by a big club. At this point, it's not really viable. We can pay people to a point, but when you go overseas, it becomes multiples of that, and that's what people want. They aspire to that, and they should. I mean, we have really talented people on the continent, so we'll continue pushing them overseas.
I agree with that. And I think what is also important is that we do have some role models for the youth across the continent that they can look towards, that haven't just done great within the African continent, but are starting to, do well in the global kind of space. And I think it's also important that, to wonder your point around the different roles we have there, that maybe it's not just the players, it's the shoutcasters, it's the content creators, it's our entrepreneurs that we have, is to try and get, all our talent really connected into the global community and performing. At the moment, the easier option is around teams and teams doing that. But I do see a number of opportunities that are starting to develop. I'm interested, just not to leave this, but platforms and mobile access. Just to hear your kind of view. I mean, obviously, both your organizations have, largely been PC console based as regards the events, competitions that you run. I'm a great believer that our opportunity across Africa really is mobile gaming, mobile esports, and mobile esports is maybe not taken as seriously as it should be. But I'm interested in what your views are and your, intentions to try and support mobile in the future, because to me, it's the only way that we'll get mass adoption of gaming. It's not going to be through consoles or PCs. And to our point earlier, we don't know what maybe the future looks like. I'm convinced it might not just be a mobile phone. It might be a wireless controller, a bit like Google Stadia.
As a mobile phone, if not two. So the ability and the growth is definitely within that space. We've seen it as the new entrants within the mobile space. Our growth has been within the youth market. Gaming is very important to them, and a great opportunity for us to start introducing as the first level, and then moving and as we create greater access within the fixed space and connectivity space into your online and computer and console gaming space. But for us, it's really looking at those three pillars. It's both console, looking at your computer gaming, as well as mobile space as being the greatest growth opportunity. But also, as we speak careers, I think it's also testament. You're seeing a lot more gaming developers within the mobile space. That has been great opportunities. Your Android and iOS space is creating those opportunities for people to start creating those games and participation. And it's really, for us, a focus area as we move into our next fiscal as well, is to look at how do we start attracting and seeing and getting people participating in a lot more of those locally produced games as well. So both looking at it from an industry and the development side, but also from a player side and driving our participation in that space.
That's very encouraging to hear, and obviously, a big focus for you, and I think it'll make a big difference. And I'm only really raising it now because I think in South Africa it's easy to get lost in PC console and see that that's where the market is. But as this is Africa Games and Esports Careers Day, and it is Africa, the mobile story is really important, and that is how the majority of the audience watching today potentially accesses it. Warren, your view when it comes to mobile gaming, mobile esports, and some of the future there?
Look, from our perspective, we're very much PC focused. It's not something that I have, as you say, we pick your battles. I've picked my battle very squarely in the PC space. I do think there's value in it, and in fact, we support initiatives where there is a mobile console focused games. A great example is something like Button Bashers that hosts their events at our venue. So that's a once a month thing that's driven by Luca, and it's not necessarily where I'm going to focus. When the time is right, I think we'll take a good look at it. But I think there's certainly it's obvious that there's opportunity there. It's obvious that guys, for example, Samsung have really focused on this as an opportunity where they've even got screens. I haven't seen one yet, but I'm told that mobile phones are now running 120 hertz screen, which is impressive. And obviously that shows you that there's some investment. So I'm aware of it. It's not something I'll focus on for the next couple of months. I certainly have enough on my plate, but the opportunities are definitely there.
Great. So one of the no's instead of all the yeses that you'll be pursuing.
Yeah. But I think every now and again I say no. Yeah.
In hearing what you're saying there, it's more like not right now. There's enough on your plate, and in the future, as it kind of develops, that's really where the opportunity is going to come. I just want to, I do need to wrap up. We're coming to the end, and I'm looking for some closing thoughts. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation between us, and I'm of the great mindset that, we need more of these conversations for our industry to really grow, and more days like this and more events. So I just ask maybe Wanda and Warren for some final thoughts, some final advice. Anyone that's watching this, are there any hints or tips in your career you've learned you'd love to share with someone? Is there any sort of specific guidance? Is there something you would suggest to someone to do right now and go out and start? What would you say to someone that's watching this that says, I'm amped, this is gaming, I want to get involved? How do they start? What would your advice or guidance be to them? Wanda, can I start with you?
Yeah, I think for me, most importantly, there's nothing that beats doing what you love, making a career of what you love. And it's about finding that passion point. I think you mentioned it a bit earlier, Kevin, where you spoke to identifying the things you're not good at, and then finding what you're good at. It is ensuring that in the career that you want to focus on, find the things that you are good at, making sure that you also understand the value chain and the work that's involved. Because I think with any job opportunity, there's the stuff that's not so nice and the stuff that is amazing. I mean, Warren spoke to made a comment with regards to, with all the work that's currently happening, you do very little gaming, and it's understanding what it is and what the job entails. But as long as you are within the field and doing the thing that you're passionate about, and want to grow yourself in, it's definitely the right path to follow.
Fantastic. And Warren, some final thoughts for you, or advice for anybody that's out there watching today?
Look, I'm going to echo what Wanda said, and there are people that want to get into esports. They want to be professional esports players or athletes, but there are huge opportunities for people beyond that. If they found a love for esports, while they might not become a professional gamer, there is an industry that is behind that is massive, and it's growing. As a percentage of other real world old sports, it's we're right at the beginning stages, but it's so accessible. There's opportunity that abounds, and we, as you said earlier, we are right at the beginning of this. So, if you find your niche, find the part where that you can carve out, that you can become really good at, and find a team or a part of that industry that you can get involved in, the success will come. You should have a good eye on your education. I always say the education comes first, but the industry is, there's a space for engineers, there's a space for developers, there's a space for technical people, there's a space for marketing people. There is this growing industry that's extremely exciting. People should understand that they can take that opportunity is there for them to take. You have large brands now looking at this. It's not just the tech providers that are involved now, and it's not just the ISPs and the telcos that are involved. You have big brands now that are looking at esports and looking to place somebody that has an esports understanding, that can educate them about esports, or that can represent them in esports. And these are conversations I have constantly. It's a really great and exciting place to be. So, if you're going to do this, do it seriously, play seriously, but also, take focus on it. It's not just a hobby. This is a real viable career path for people to take. So, we've created 70 jobs. I could create another 20 or 30 jobs very easily, just off the back of what we've got planned for the next 6 months. So I'm looking forward to this. I think everybody else should be too, and we'll be, as gamers and esports professionals, this is just the new normal. We'll look back and our kids will just think that this is how it was. We used to sit and watch soccer and rugby on the weekend and cricket. We all do all those things, and then you watch Counter-Strike at night or Fortnite or whatever's happening at that time. And behind that, there's a huge team making that happen. It didn't appear on your screen by magic, So it's something to be excited about.
Great. Well, thank you, Warren. We certainly are. And I just want to thank Wanda and Warren for joining us today. We really appreciate all the insights that you've shared. I also just want to say, personally, from the investment you guys have made, it's very much respected. It's very much welcomed. Keep investing in the space. We need organizations like yourselves to be investing and growing. It can't just be done, with the individual players themselves. So thank you for all you've done. Thank you for your insights that you've shared with us today. I always say with these sessions, we could talk for much longer, of course, and I hope that we'll continue the conversation in other formats, in other ways, maybe back here next year with Africa Games and Esports Careers Day when we do it again. So thanks both very much for the time and all your thoughts that you spent with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for organizing it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Warren. Thank you, Wanda. So that is Wanda Makiza, the Executive Head of Content and VS Gaming at Telkom, and Warren Barkhuizen, the founder and CEO from ATK Esports. We were talking job creation in esports. This is Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly with more exciting panels, discussions around career opportunities in Africa for games and esports. Thank you.
I see you hustle. I see you hustle hard. Not everyone is as motivated as you.
This is rAge Expo 2020, the digital edition. My name is Kevin Meltzer. This is Africa Games and Esports Careers Day taking place at rAge Expo. We have a number of exciting panelists and speakers joining us, talking around career opportunities in games and esports. And this is one I've been very much looking forward to. We have a talk coming up now, which is going to be about developing games in Africa for the world. Dominic Opchowitz is joining us. He's an indie game developer. Iram Tawiwa from Leti Arts, who is now heading up the Games Development Association of Africa. Gianna Rico, who is heading up Unity's initiatives in Africa. And Pippa Chabalala, who will be hosting the panel with us. This was a pre-recorded session, and so please enjoy.
Hi, I'm Pippa Chabalala, and welcome to what is promising to be a very exciting panel on developing games in Africa for the world. We've got a really, really great host of speakers lined up. I'm going to start with myself very quickly. So for those people who don't know me, my name is Pippa Chabalala. I am a gamer, but I've been a lot of different things in the gaming industry. I've been a presenter, I've been a lecturer, I've reviewed games and done web stuff and TV stuff and all of those kinds of things. But I am in no way a game developer. And we have we have three people here who are game developers from Africa, which I think is something that is very difficult in the current climate, but it's something that is so rewarding and so exciting in the just in the environment at the moment. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I think that you always kind of know yourself best. So I'm going to start with Joanna, and if you could just give us a little bit of a background, who you are, and what it is that you do, and then we'll get into all the like nitty-gritty stuff in a little bit with everyone.
Thank you very much, Pippa. So I'm going to correct. I'm not a game developer myself. So I'm Johanna Rieke, and I'm a strategic business development manager focusing on the Middle East and Africa. And I work for a company named Unity Technologies. So at Unity, I help government and large companies in transform their economy in creating sustainable employability and self-sufficiency. So, and another one thing which is very important is a key measure of the success of the program and the solutions that we provide is that the population gains sustainable and marketable skills in Unity, of course, in order for them to be either launch successful startup or market their skills to existing businesses. And one of the KPI is the number of talent which is added to the employment landscape. So there is a very heavy social impact that we're looking into having with this type of solution. Outside of Unity, I speak at events on the topic of diversity and inclusion in the gaming industry, African gaming industry, and another topic outside of gaming, which is empowering domestic violence survivors. And in addition, and lastly, I'm starting an initiative that's named the Overlook Audience, which is an initiative to highlight Black women in the gaming industry, providing a safe environment to discuss either the challenges, but the successes as well, and brainstorming about solutions to attract and retain people. Retain Black women in the gaming industry.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to move on to to your point, you're not a developer, but you're working in the game development space, which is more than I'm doing. So, more of a game developer than I am. I'm going to move on to Aram quickly.
Yes, so my name is Aram Tawiwa, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Leti Arts, which is a full-time game development company in Ghana and Kenya. And we started in 2009 with the focus of building games based on African descent, African rich stories, retelling them in the form of superheroes, loosely tied to factual historic figures. And we also have a universe called Africa's Legends, and that has superheroes that are loosely tied to these historic figures, and also villains that are tied to problems in Africa. So all the problems that are arising in terms of in politics, we have villains representing greedy presidents and all that. We have characters.
Something I think we can all relate to.
Yeah, all those things. So it's an exciting universe, and we build digital games and digital comics around them. So at Leti, we have Africa's Legends, which is games and comics, and we have Afro Comics, which is our publishing platform that's also open to other game development studios and creatives on the continent. And currently, that platform is also growing very fast. And then we do consulting with international partners and NGOs as well, who are doing malaria, like advocating in malaria, HIV, mostly in the health, financial sector, and all that, gamifying those processes. So basically, that is what Leti has been doing over the years. And our values have been telling the authentic African story, so meaningful authenticity. We are dedicated to industry growth as well, because we know that skill set is not much here. So we are dedicated to industry, local talent development. So we have an internship program that we recently made into a course curriculum called STEAM Africa. And we are also dedicated towards the industry growth, which is the next generation. So we do a lot of game jams and community building. And I think we just announced the African Video Game Developers Association today, of which I'm the president of, with some key stakeholders from the continent as well. So yes, these are the things that we are doing on the continent to push Africa to a certain point where it is game worthy, and we are also able to monetize the over a billion people that we have on the continent to make games and also generate revenue from this industry. So that is a bit about Leti. As we continue, I would say more.
Thank you so much. That's it's amazing, and like looking at everyone's different backgrounds, and it's really quite phenomenal. Last but not least, we have Dom.
Thanks, Pippa. So I'm Dominic Wojtkiewicz. I'm an independent games developer and have been making games in South Africa for about 10 years now. I've released 5, I'd say, fully fledged games on various platforms, from Xbox One to Nintendo Switch, a couple Steam games, a couple iPhone apps. I've been doing it for a long time now. I'm still loving it. Recently moved to Limpopo to experience the more rural side of Africa and let that feed into the next project.
So before I get to everyone's kind of career path and how they got to where they got to, what I would really like to find out is that what was your first experience of gaming? Because like for so many of us, that's really there's a hook. There's always a hook. There's something that gets you into it, that you're like, this is what I want to do with my life in some form or another. And for me, it was I've got photographs of me playing TV games at the time in nappies. And so it's one of those things that, like you always kind of remember. But I remember the game that got me into gaming was a game called Full Throttle. And that's the game that really I was like, this is what I want to do. And even though I didn't end up going into game development, it was something that still always made a really, really big impact on me. So I'm very curious to see with everyone, like whether it was a game or it was something to do with esports, what was it that got you into gaming? I'm just going to start in the same order that we all introduced. So I'm going to start with Joanna, and then Aram, and then Dom.
My first experience really with gaming was when I was 14 with Pac-Man on the very old computer. But that didn't really push me to be in gaming. I got into gaming, and I'm going to reply to your next question with the actual history of how I got into gaming. But yes, it was a completely hazard, I would say.
And you, Aram? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think also for me, way back when I was about 7, 8 years on Atari, playing all these games on Atari. Then we got to Sega Master System, early 90s. We saw Street Fighter and Killer Instincts on the Super Nintendo and all that. So for me, I've been a game enthusiast since my childhood. And the first time I saw these games, right from the Atari level, I was hooked. And I think I published my book recently on how I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing now, called the Uncompromising Passion, the Humble Beginnings of an African Video Game Industry. Like right from scratch.
Congratulations.
Now, yes. So now I've loved video games, and doing this professionally is a miracle on this continent, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. So that's how I fell in love.
It's so nice to hear that I'm not the only one who's been playing since I was tiny. So I'm going to move on to Dom as the last one.
Yeah, so my first experience with video games, I don't know if you guys remember those old, they were like orange Nintendo, 100 Nintendo games in one controllers that you plugged into your TV.
I do.
So my cousin had one of these, and like I was like 4 or 5 or something, and I went to his house, and we were playing the original Super Mario, which was on that console. And experiencing that quality of a game like that young was just hooked from then on.
So, I mean, how is it that everyone kind of developed this? What would you say that your career path was? I mean, like, how did everyone start? Because if I look at myself, I'd always wanted to play and then make video games. So when I was about 10, I played full throttle, and I was like, this is what I want to do. But like, it wasn't really something that was available to me at the time. I mean, I decided that, okay, well, I was going to somehow make games, and I wasn't quite sure how that was going to happen. And I went and studied fine arts, and then I did my master's in 3D animation, and I went and interned at what at the time was South Africa's only gaming studio. And then after I did like a holiday internship, and after a week of my month-long holiday internship, I came home and said to my boyfriend, who is now my husband, yeah, I don't want to do that. Which, I mean, seems so counterintuitive, because this is what you've kind of been gearing up to do for so long. But at the same time, it awoke a different passion in me, and that for me was writing about video games and looking at how the ways that they're developed and the messaging behind them can be so powerful for people. The passion that I felt, like understanding why people did what they did, and why they had certain messaging within games, like that became my passion, and that's what really excited me. So yeah, I just really like to hear what your sort of career paths were, and I'm going to switch up the order again a little bit this time, and I'm going to start with Aram. You're on mute. There we go.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. So for me, it's a bit strange because people ask me, so did you know right from childhood that you'll be making games now? The answer is no, actually, because I was addicted, and how I was. If you ask my nursery school mates that around, they will ask you, is he making games? My primary school, they'll ask you the same thing. My junior high school, they'll ask the same thing. And my university, they also ask you the same thing. And now I'm still doing the same thing, right? So though I've had a consistent attitude towards gaming, my career also was shaped automatically towards that. So I think from primary school, I loved comics, right? Comics. So I had a lot of Superman, Batman, and all those comics. And in those comics, they were advertising, play Superman on Nintendo, play Batman. So it looked really cool to me. So I started writing my own stories, fantasizing my own virtual characters. And my dad, an art professor, he was my first illustrator, right? So fast forward to junior high school, I met a guy who was really good at drawing. I could draw, but wasn't that good. So I started bringing my fantasy stories, and we made our comics. And the first comic that broke it for us was Sword of Cygos. When we built Sword of Cygos, I was in junior high school too, and I wanted to make advertisements of Sword of Cygos in my comic that play Sword of Cygos on the PC or on the Super Nintendo. So that was how I started learning how to program. That was the first time I got to learn about programming. And I programmed my first game for my comic with that story, which was an adventure RPG game. And I remember putting it on a diskette. I learned QBasic. I made it on a diskette. I put it inside the comic, just like what I had with the Super Nintendo, with the Superman and Batman books. Green Lantern. The book was Green Lantern. I love it.
Like the CD that comes with the magazine.
To make it equally good. So we built several comics, and we started our first company in junior high school. I had 3 very best friends. So fast forward to the university, I was still doing this stuff. And for me, I grew very much interested in programming, that I was programming robots. I was doing very unique stuff, DJ applications, like multimedia stuff. Games were also parts, but I really wanted the difficult things. And of course, gaming is quite difficult. So in my final year project in computer science, I did computer science in the university. I decided to pick one of my, the first comic I did and the first game I did in QBasic, I decided to redo it in 3D for my final year thesis. So I used that as a case to my professors, and I'm like, I'm going to build a 3D game. They're like, hey, nobody does a game in Ghana. A game. And one professor was like, hey, Ram, I'll supervise you, build the game. And I made Sword of Cygos as my thesis. And trust me, that project had become what it is today. If I hadn't done Sword of Cygos as my final year thesis, probably I may not have channeled my energy into building something of quality, and also draw inspiration from that to do what Letty Arts is doing now. So that has become my career path. But the whole idea was that I love the combination, the skill set combination of making video games, where you bring writers, you bring artists.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's been a very collaborative process the whole way, which is really awesome.
Exactly. So I remember in my thesis, I made a recommendation to the department that I got my artist from the College of Art. I got my music person from the music department. I did the programming. So at my defense, I was like, hey, I'm just a programmer. I got all these guys. So guys to figure a way to give them marks in their faculties. And that is the case. And fast forward to today, as Letty, in meeting my co-founder and all that, I documented all this in my book. The book is like my career. So in the future, I realized that doing this has become part of history, and it has also motivated a lot of people across the continent. And today we did a session, and I saw over 40 gamers in a Zoom session pitching game ideas. Was like a dream come true to me, right? And it's like you've led people into those career paths as well, making it relevant, paying. Imagine my dad seeing that I'm making games after graduating in a university. It doesn't happen. So supportive parents, at least my parents were very supportive in the career, in me making my choices. But my other 2 friends that I started the company with are doctors now, are medical doctors. So unfortunately, they got shut down. So I continued the dream of being that gaming person. So at least the career path from my direction had a bit of understanding and supportive parents, though it got a
I mean, and it's really, really important. It's very important to have people who really do support your children's career. Because we're a little bit short on time, I'm just going to move on quickly. Just to Dom, if you can just give us a little bit of background. Like, how did you get into chart? Very quickly, your career path. Like,
Yeah, so I've actually known I wanted to make games literally since grade 2, and I think that came from an experience where I was making maps for Prof. and I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do, but I had no idea what went into it or what becoming a games developer entailed. So I think initially, you know, both my parents are fine artists, so I originally wanted to go the graphics design route, and I kept like trying to learn Cinema 4D and all these graphics design tools, and time passed and I got to high school, and in high school I had a programming teacher who, now their IT course, the programming course, only starts in grade 10, and as a grade 8 I kept bugging her until she would teach me how to code, and eventually she relented, and in you know, off periods and extra time I would go and learn how to code with this wonderful teacher. And then I think 2 years after beginning that journey learning how to code, I found I was a lot better at coding than I was at making the art. So I kind of shifted my perspective on what I wanted to do. And then, yeah, I think in 2010, I then released my first game, which was an iPhone app. And it was actually one of the first iPhone apps coming out of South Africa, because I remember having to call the London office of Apple to get them to approve me to release the game, because they just didn't have developers in South Africa. And I was like, I have a game, let me release it. And yeah, so that's where it all started. And then I was fortunate enough that once I was choosing universities, that UCT was offering a games design and computer science course. So I did my degree in computer games design, finished that, and since then I've just been making games.
You know, it's amazing how a single teacher can often make such a difference in your choice of career path. That you have one teacher who just supports what you do, or kind of gives you an opportunity, and that can change absolutely everything. I'm going to move on to Joanna. I mean, particularly somebody who works for Unity, which I mean is such a big development platform. I mean, it's probably one of the largest. And, you know, I think that's something that's very exciting. It's nice to have someone who's not, I don't mean this, guys, I don't mean like just a game developer, but like someone from the other side as well, you know, on both sides. It's a very, very nice dynamic.
Thank you, Peppa. So indeed, my career path, as I was saying earlier, started understanding and knowing about the game industry when I started at Unity, and it was really and why I started being an advocate for game developer. It was really because of the social impact and that I've seen with developers. First of all, because I'm in sales, I was attending most of the older European conferences, and every time when I was wearing the Unity t-shirt, a lot of developers were telling me, "Oh, Unity changed my life. Unity really." I'm now able to found my own company. I now have employees. I can actually live my dream. And this is where I starting to be hooked. And I'm not sure at the time that if everyone understood at Unity itself the social impacts that we really have with developers. So when I started at Unity 6 years ago, I was taking care of indies developer for Western Europe and education. And the year after, I've started working with the African continent. And I'm from Guadeloupe, which is a French Caribbean island. And since I'm a young person, I always develop an interest for history, political science, and African history and culture. So it was really important for me to get the same type of testimony from African game developers telling me and calling me and telling me Unity has changed my life, or now I am able to do this. So throughout my career, I would say that Unity, this is why I started really focusing in networking, in understanding what was happening in the African game industry, and trying to be a bridge and an advocate as well for the industry.
So I'm just going to lead straight into my next question then, which I think is quite particularly relevant to what you've been discussing, is what would you say is the current state of the gaming industry in Africa then? I mean, in terms of perhaps the penetration and the scope of development, because I think, very unfortunately, because of a variety of reasons, I think people only really think of South Africa as, the sort of the main development hub, if you will, in terms of gaming in Africa, but that really is not the case. So I'm very curious to see everyone's perspective on that. I'm going to go straight back to you, Joanna.
So the current state of the gaming industry in Africa, well, what I've observed the last 5 years is that there've been an increased interest from the Western world, but as well the awareness of being a game developer or actually working in the gaming industry can actually be a valid career path. There are many barriers that have been that still exist, but have been negate. As Aram was saying, the parents can really be a push to not work in the gaming industry. As well, the lack of education, the lack of support. So today because there is this increased interest from the I would say the Western world, Europe and Americas and Asia as well. There is now we can see several clusters in Africa. So indeed, there is the south of Africa, there is the east of Africa. You have Kenya, Ethiopia, and Rwanda is coming to be there as well. And in the west, there is Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, and a lot of those French African countries as well, and the north of Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt. So today it's really refreshing and very interesting to see how the dynamics and in the gaming industry in Africa. And as Aram was saying, I'm glad now that the African Game Developers Association is now being announced, because the officialization of a network of a body, industry body, can really propulse the African game developers.
And Don, what would you say? I mean, I think South Africa definitely historically has been the sort of more dominant. Well, in the news anyway. I mean, I don't know that we can necessarily say it is the more dominant, but certainly from an awareness perspective. But I mean, how do you feel about both the local industry, the South African industry, and then the continental gaming industry?
So my opinion on the games industry in Africa is it's a little bit torn between, I'd say, the development side and the consumer side. Because on one hand, I actually think we have really strong game developers across the continent. I've met people at Amaze and a lot of the events that are held that are producing amazing games. And some of the games that have come out of South Africa have been like worldwide successes. I mean, if you just look at Broforce, which is the calling card there. So I think that the whole continent's very culturally rich, and that sort of stuff really aids art. So I find that games coming out of Africa are going to continue to be very interesting and very promising. I'd say the part that I struggle with is, we don't get a lot of our revenue coming out of Africa, and the consumer support for local games developers tends to be quite low. I mean, with the most recent project I've worked on, I think like 96 or 97% of our revenue comes from just America and Europe. And then America is just like 66% of our revenue. It's quite unreal. So, and I think that's to be understood as well, because it's like games consoles and computers it's a luxury good, and we are a developing continent and developing country. So that's it presents its own challenge. But I think as the industry matures and as computers and data becomes more available to everyone, I think we could see a big boom in the consumer support for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite, while you were talking, I was actually thinking, I wonder, how much impact something like COVID actually can have in the development of the industry. There's always the access issue. That's something I think that anyone who lives in Africa is very aware of, in terms of consumer access to all of these things. But from a COVID perspective, the fact that we now know that we really can all work remotely, because some of us have been doing it for years, but the fact that we really now know that actually we can, and we can work globally with all our global partners completely remotely from our bedroom, I wonder how that might change and help with development. But that's a pondering while you were talking. I'm going to move just lastly and quickly to Aram as well, before we move on to the next question.
Yes, yes, perfect. And that COVID idea comes very evidently during this period, especially when it comes to development. And to add to what Don was talking about in terms of development and then the consumer, I think the consumer space also has a very long way to go, especially with sub-Saharan Africa. So I think when we started South Africa, North Africa, I think South Africa, because of the Western influence, North Africa, you are closer to the West. So the sub-Saharan Africa has its own story of growth in terms of both development, in terms of both consumer mindset, cultural barriers, and all that. So in terms of that, it's still very nascent. It's growing, but it's growing at different rates. So developers are finding each other. Jobs are springing up in a way from the West. So to address the COVID situation, I can be a developer here, and probably a Chinese company would be outsourcing a cheaper skill set in Africa because they've heard of something. When it comes to, so in terms of development jobs, it's not coming internally, but the outside world are looking at cheaper sectors to actually get developers. So that
actually leads into the next question I wanted to ask, which is, how do you feel that we develop talent then? Because we're talking about like access, so I think that we all do really have to acknowledge that the fact that we are sitting in a very privileged environment, that we all went to university and were able to have that access. There are a lot of people who don't have that access. So how do we develop talent and encourage access to not just information, but to developing skills in the continent?
Yes, and that is where we come in. One of our values is talent growth, like development. So we have an internship program and a job shadowing program for a lot of university students, even trickle down to the primary school level students who come and intern with us. Just because in the sub-region, we don't have any universities teaching video games yet. Video game has a technical mindset, so you can get a great programmer, great artist, but when they come in the game industry, they need to learn technicalities, dimension, optimizing of file formats and stuff for all these games, and memory management and all that. So that comes through internships. And the other thing is that most of us are self-taught. I am self-taught. I've not done any game development. Most of us in the sub-region are self-taught. So what we are doing now is partnering universities who are doing games outside and bringing down interns. So I have partnerships with Rubika and in India, who brings game development interns here, some in the US, Dartmouth and all that. So when they come, they are able to pass on real-time information to the Ghanaian students here. And that is how we sustain our talent development, which is still a challenge, but as I speak, we are trying to get some universities. I am trying to even teach myself some game development courses in the universities here, right? To start that whole education bit as well, because it is
absolutely. Yeah. So this is something I think that a lot of people don't necessarily like a lot of young people coming into the industry don't necessarily realize that most of the people who are in established game design are actually self-taught, because that wasn't available. I mean, like even with me, when I wanted to go into animation, there was no such thing. Like you could maybe go and do a 2D animation course, in the States, but that wasn't something that was available here. So my undergraduate degree is fine arts, because I was kind of told, well, develop your art skills. And then by the time I finished my art degree, then 3D animation was something that by that stage had been offered. So, I mean, Joanna, what are your thoughts on that in terms of developing talent?
Developing talent, of course, in order to develop talent, and as I was saying, in my role at Unity, is to really understand that upskilling, education is the #1 key in order to create a thriving and successful industry. So developing talent with, in partnering with university, in our case, in partnering with government, because what I found is that if we have in certain country, because there is diverse perspective as well, if there is a mandate, a government mandate in terms of employment, in terms of technology development, we can actually bet on that and really leverage those mandates to officialize the education of gaming industry, providing the numbers of revenue that the gaming industry generate per year, and money is key. So showcasing that the gaming industry is an industry that can generate revenue for the countries, and in that case, for the government to invest in their youth, and to be able to have a game developer, game designer, the whole pipeline of gaming, being part of official university curriculum or private education academic institution. So that's the first step. So education is key. Then ensuring that this education can be apply in either incubators for startups or internship with different international company. Officializing as well the organization that can be on the continent, as well providing some business information on the gaming industry, because what I've seen is that a lot of gamers, and this is not only on the African continent, this is everywhere. So a lot of indie game development, they've got all that technical knowledge, but the business knowledge, how to present, how to pitch a game, how to present.
Pitch.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think learnerships and internships are so important in any industry. I mean, and that comes down to, I'm in television, television learnerships and learnerships from high school. So it's like, kids coming up from high school who are maybe still trying to decide what they're going to do, and like, is this something that they're interested in, and should they invest in trying to get a bursary, or and something else I also think is that is bursaries. Like it's you can't go and study.
Yes, that was my next point. Investment by VC, investment by publishers, like having a network, and building that network and building that bridge between all the different regional industry will really help the gaming industry to and the career path for game developers or game professional in Africa.
Absolutely. So, Dom, I'm going to change it slightly for you, because I've seen in our we've got a chat, and Aram also commenting in the chat, and I think that's really important, is that in terms of esports, because we've talked a lot about game dev, but I think that there's a obviously the two kind of grow together in a lot of ways, but they also are very distinct. And so we've got a whole group of people a whole group of kids who are starting to get into esports and understanding that the video game industry isn't just making games. So there's that side of making games, and there's the side of competitive gaming. But in a lot of ways, the game development is starting to also lend itself towards competitive gaming, because that's where the profit is and that's where the market is to a certain extent. So I'm just curious on your thoughts on that.
Still muted? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you were, but you're all good now.
Cool. So yeah, no, my thoughts on esports in Africa is actually, I think that's one of the biggest growth opportunities for the whole continent. Specifically, I see two areas that can be very good for young people trying to get into esports. The one I'd say is streaming on Twitch, because suddenly you can stream yourself playing a game, and if you're reasonably good at it, you'll develop quite a large audience, and this audience can donate to you. And the best part is these donations are in dollars, and this is one of those times when exchange rates tends to help us Africans on the continent.
That our exchange rate is terrible.
Yeah. But, one of the plus sides to that is that there's no barrier to entry, other than having a webcam and internet, to picking up these streaming opportunities, and they can be very lucrative. And I think there's a big opportunity for Africa to get involved in that side quite a lot. And the other aspect that I'd like to comment on is, and this is something I noticed that Magic the Gathering did recently. So they have their online platform for card tournaments, and they started doing completely virtual esports tournaments for their World Cup and their grand finals and everything. And I think there's a big opportunity for South Africans and Africans to get involved in hosting esports tournaments, because you can host them completely remotely, and you can get talent from a variety of places. And then it's the post-COVID world, I think, is teaching everyone that you can do a lot more things through the internet. I think that's a big opportunity for Africans, especially because we can hit a global audience, and we can we don't need to go and book out a stadium or as it was in the past.
So just last question before we wrap up, and I'm going to pose it to everyone, and then we'll just kind of go through the list. So what practical advice would you give to someone who is looking to get into the gaming industry? And, you can speak from your field, perhaps, if that's what you're interested into, but just in like a couple of sentences, if you can just sum it up. And I'm going to start with the order on my screen, which is Joanna at the top.
Yes, the practical advice I would say is know your craft, but the main thing is networking. And this is what have been the opportunities that I've seen for different game developers is facilitating the relationship between different developers, and I've seen that being important. So knowing people in your craft, knowing people in your industry, attending events, and LinkedIn is a very good way to network. So networking and self-develop yourself in the career choice that you have chosen.
And Aram?
Yes, for me, I think what Joanna said, yes, but I call it associate. So association, so I associate with, if you want to do games, associate with gamers now, because it's now like a growing industry, and this is a time to be part of the story. So intern at game companies, partner artists, partner programmers, and just make sure you are always talking about games and also reading about games. I consider esports and development to work together, but if you want to do esports, then go into it, associate with the circles and grow. If you want to come to development, try and specialize at one thing, probably art or programming, or this is the time to start looking at where your strength is and developing yourself towards that. But the great thing is network and association.
Absolutely. And Dom.
Yeah, so I'd say I'd take a different approach here. I'd say that my biggest piece of advice is to strengthen your tenacity. Like you want to never give up. I think it's very challenging to make games in Africa, and you can run into a lot of hurdles. You can have one game that does really well, and then you think the next game is going to sell as many copies, and it doesn't. But my key point is just never give up. Keep going at it. Keep pushing. If you throw enough darts at that dartboard, one's bound to stick.
I was going to say keep your passion. I was going to ask everyone for their sort of final thoughts, but I feel like that actually summed it up all quite nicely. That's really so. Keep hanging on to that passion and the tenacity of what you want to do with your life. I mean, and I think the one thing that I always kind of say to people is that it's never too late. And part of the reason that I also say that is because you spend so much of your life at work. You really don't want to be doing something that you hate. And I really feel like that's if gaming is your passion and that is what you want to do, find a way to make it work. That's my advice. That's my little final closing on that. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us. Thank you to those watching, and thank you to our guests. You guys have been amazing, and I think that some really valuable advice for everyone who's watching and who is keen on getting involved in the gaming industry in any respect. It's really all about kind of giving it your all and finding the opportunities and finding the niche, because that's really it in Africa. Find the niche that where you fit and where you can make it work. So great, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining, and hopefully we will see all of these amazing games start to emerge out of Africa in the coming years. Thanks. Bye.
Yes. That was an incredible talk, and thank you to Aram and Dom and Joanna for joining. Some valuable advice coming out of that. Pippa, I completely agree. You spend more time at work than you do at home or playing or do anything else. So you got to love what you do. You got to find the passion in what you do. And there are just so many opportunities in the game space. And I also just want to pick up what Joanna said, networking. For everyone that's out there listening, whether you're on the chat, whether you're in the social, start networking, start engaging with the community. That's what it's about. Networking is so important. Our next session is again one of our pre-recorded sessions. We're talking about content creation and streaming here with Super Dave and Sam Wright that are joining us. These were one-on-one conversations that Glenn did individually, both with Sam and Super Dave. And we'll kick off the first one where Glenn is interviewing Super Dave.
Hello, everybody. We are here at the Africa Games and Esports Careers Day session. We're talking around content creation and streaming, and I have Super Dave with me. Super Dave, how's it going? You are definitely super in very, very many ways. I'm quite excited to be chatting to you today around sort of, content creation and sort of the path that you've taken. I think you have quite an interesting journey and quite a unique perspective on it. But before we get into the fun stuff, let's give you a chance to just introduce yourself to people that don't know you, and then we'll take it from there.
Hey, well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, guys. Quite the honor, and I was quite excited when I got the invite to take part in this Careers Day. So it's always cool to share your journey with people. And maybe inspire someone who comes from the same background or has the same passion for video games as you do, So my name is Super Dave. I'm the founder of the Idiot's Guide to Gaming. I do video game review vlogs called Gaming in My Mama's House. I've been in the SA gaming industry for more than 5 years, mainly just doing video game reviews for my website. I used to do video game reviews for TV and radio. So I started off doing video game reviews on Sunday nights on YFM with a colleague and friend of mine called Mollo on his show. We also used to do like FIFA tournaments on his show where I'd bring my own console, my own TV, we'd put the prize money together ourselves, and we get invite guys to come play FIFA live on his show. Then I moved on to do video game reviews on YFM's breakfast show, Y Mornings with DJ Ankle Tap. That was really, really cool. I love that. Bigger platform. So every morning at Friday at 17:40, I used to do video game reviews there. Then I went on to do video game reviews on TV, on Frenzy, which was really cool. I love that. So on a weekly basis, I'd go to the Red Pepper Studios where they recorded Frenzy and would do video game reviews there and I did that for like 2.5 years. When I started out there first, you couldn't see me. All you heard was my voice. So they just like put together the gameplay visuals. They'd slap an opening bumper and a closing bumper, and all you hear is just me rambling on about this game. Then a year later, they decided to switch things up, and they say like, "Hey, Dave, we like what you're doing, but we feel like there's a bit of a disconnect because all people do is hear your voice, and let's bring you into studio." So that was my entry into dabbling into the TV world, and I also did that for another 1.5 years, which was really cool. Then after that, I started venturing into doing my own production for YouTube, doing my own video game reviews on my YouTube channel. So which has been quite cool. From a scene perspective, this year during those whole Corona madness. A lot of that was happening. So also kind of took a mini break from doing the videos and stuff. But I recently jumped back into it. So I've got a new season of gaming in my mama's house where we've switched up how I do gaming in my mama's house from a visual point of view and a production point of view. So now if you watch the video game reviews, they look a whole lot better. They more I think it's more structured and it looks cool, and I'm really excited about the future of gaming in my mama's house, the Idiot's Guide to Gaming, the Super Dave brand, and all that I do in the gaming space.
So, I mean, I think what's really, really cool about, that experience that you've had and that journey that you've gone through is I think your like affinity and your experience in like radio and in production and above, like, in that industry. I think, because I think it's something that, I mentioned before to people, and when we talk about sort of content creation, and it's around like, how do you tell like good stories and like, how do you create entertainment? Like, it's about entertainment. I think often people don't know what that means. And I think you've got such a good understanding of that. Especially when you go through like your radio history as well, like how has that influenced the way that you approach content creation now? Because you have such a unique understanding of how the radio scene understands entertainment.
Sure. Yeah, right? I think more than anything,
and then how you translate that into gaming.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you there. I think like more than anything, it's just taught me how to structure because mainly the stuff I did was video game reviews. So it just taught me how to do quick, short reviews with less jargon and just more impact, and making someone who knows nothing about Grand Theft Auto, about Gran Turismo, about the Uncharted series, about a PlayStation, a Nintendo Switch, a gaming rig, try to explain that to someone who knows nothing about it in the simplest way you possibly can. And I guess that's what radio did for me. So if you watch it, you could see that this is super dumbed down, and it's not dumbed down because it's not appealing to the core audience. It's dumbed down because I wanted to appeal to everyone, even if you know nothing about gaming. But if you're watching the video and you hear what I'm saying, I hope it makes sense. And that's all that radio taught me, to simplify how you break down content so that it just not only appeals to your niche, but even someone who knows nothing about your industry can walk away and say, oh, that's how FIFA 20 works. That's why these kids love Fortnite. That's why the PlayStation is the biggest console in the world. That's why Fortnite is the biggest video game in the world. So yeah, that's my main objective, and how I structure how I do my content.
And that really comes through in the way, like, you mean, like, for example, like your naming conventions, Super Dave, Idiot's Guide to Gaming, Gaming of Mama's House. I think those are such different names, because I think a lot of people as well, to your point when you're saying, like, I think like I said, it comes through in your approach of keeping it very simple, making it very, very accessible. But I think also it's like you're very careful about how you brand things, how you position things. So like when you look at your brand and you in your world, you know, and I think we're talking about it in the backstage just now about, you know, like you have such a strong branding and everyone really very much knows that branding and who you are as that persona online. But then, you know, everything behind that is, you know, you carried through your content, not necessarily your name and your and that recognition from that side of it. How do you reconcile those two? Because I think, again, you know, you've mentioned how it's about trying to make everything accessible and it's about keeping it like simple and to the point. But I think, how do you then navigate your own personal brand in between all of the things you do, from Idiot's Guide to Gaming, from the radio stuff, from Gaming Mama's House? How do you make sure you keep your personal brand sort of going as well?
I think you know what, dude, that's actually quite like quite a tough, intrigued question. But and I don't think I've ever dissected it that way. Maybe it's because you come from a creative background, and when you when you look at stuff, you always look at it from a holistic point of view. You know, I think what I set out to do when I created Gaming in My Mama's House, or the Idiot's Guide to Gaming, was, I got the nickname Super Dave from a colleague of mine at YFM when I was starting out. So in radio, there's these clips called radio promos, where you have to like chop them up really. It's like moments that happen on a show that are really funny and cool. Like if like a DJ says something stupid, then like maybe like an hour or 2 hours later, you hear that clip again, but it's like in a short summarized form with some sound effects, some wacky bed music, and the name of the show in the beginning and the time slot of the show at the end, you know? So, and I used to do those clips. I used to cut them up really quickly. So that colleague of mine was like, yo, man, you make super promos, man. So, and I like your promo. So, you know, from today onwards, I'm gonna call you Super Dave, you know? So that's how I got the name Super Dave. So, and it stuck. So even as I dabbled into the world of gaming, when I thought, what kind of cool alias can I give myself? Then I took it back to my radio roots. Like, okay, I'm known as Super Dave from the work I did in radio. So let me just do this. Let me just ride with the name Super Dave. You know, then what I wanted, how I wanted to, like, remember when blogging was the in thing and everyone was blogging and everyone was a blogger.
Blogspot.
Blogspot. I thought of myself like in SA, and I remember at that time in SA, all the really cool blogs were fashion and music. The only really cool publication there was for nerds was NAG, you know, but NAG wasn't, even they had an online presence, but they were bigger from a print point of view. And I thought to myself, man, I also want to do this blogging thing. What can I blog about? What am I really good with other than my radio job? Then I thought, okay, I like video games and I play a video game on a Friday night, then I'm done Saturday morning. So let me try that. So what can I call it? Okay, cool. Let's call it Dave's Guide to Gaming. I was like, nah, that doesn't sound cool. You know, that doesn't sound cool. Then I thought, then I don't know. I was searching something. Then I saw Idiots. Then I thought, what if we called it the Idiot's Guide to Gaming, and not necessarily saying that the person who reads the blog is an idiot, but it's this idiot guide to gaming, you know. So that's where that whole stem from. So, but I'm sidetracking a bit here, but
I think but I think that's an interesting point that you make in terms of the thinking process, because I mean this is really what it's about, is kind of unpacking the thinking and the approach that you take to building your brand and to doing content creation, those sort of things. But I think one of the nuggets I want to take from there, and then, you know, we can get back to that question if we need to, but it's around your, like that again, back to your approach to things. I think, you know, what I've always loved about your content is just like, you do your thing and you do it really, really well. You know, you don't really get caught up in the sort of everything else and what everybody else is doing. You've always had a very clear brand, and you've had a very clear purpose, like, this is what I do, this is why I do it, and this is how I'm going to keep doing it, kind of thing, you know? What's that sort of, how do you find that balance between when you need to adapt and evolve versus knowing that you're doing something really well? Because I think and the reason why I ask that is because I think a lot of people are trying to see what's trending, right? What's the cool thing to do? What's the trendiest game to be going into now? Jump into that, get your content in, and follow the wave, versus, you know, how you have that other approach, which I think you've done very well. And I think you're one of the best that does it in the country in terms of this is the thing that I do, and I do it really well, and there's evolution in it, but it's not trying to follow the wave. How do you work? How do you manage that or approach that?
I think from time to time, what I've always told myself, I need to, I reevaluate, hence earlier this year, I took like a little break just to see how can I do what I do better, because just sitting in front of a phone or a webcam or a camera and saying, okay, I'm going to do this review, putting together those visuals from the gameplay footage and putting it out there I thought to myself, maybe that's not enough. Let's turn this into a show. Let's evolve it. It's still the same. The core of it is still the same. It's still video game reviews, but let's turn it into a show now. Let's turn it into a proper production. Then I reached out to a mate of mine, Solid the Gifted. He's an animator by profession. He does my visuals. He does all my graphic work. And I reached out to him like, yo, dude, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. And this is how I want to take it to the next level while keeping it at its core, and I bounce around ideas with him, and he tells me, nah, let's try this. I'll say, no, let's do this. And I guess that's the way recently, that's the way I've taken my approach to my career has been that. And every couple of months, the idea is just to take a step back, reevaluate, see what worked, see what didn't work, what can we improve from also a quality point of view, a production point of view, a gameplay point of view. Do we need to rope in someone else to help us with another element of it? But the core of it is still the same, and I guess that's just been my approach. From a politics point of view, I choose to turn a blind eye, and you learn that while also working in the corporate radio media space. If you've ever had an office job or worked with a bunch of people, you realize that not every space is perfect, and there'll always be politics in whatever space you find yourself in. And I get ultimately it's your approach to that space. If you don't like the space, you have two options. You can either leave or tolerate what's going on, or you can also rather entertain all that's going on. But once you start entertaining it, it starts eating you up inside. You end up being disgruntled, you end up being unhappy, frustrated, and that's the type of energy I'm not trying to attract right now in my life. So then, man, that's basically been my approach to content creation, the SA gaming scene, and how I've moved throughout the years.
Yeah, I think something also again that's like also really cool that you're talking about now is like that the importance of actually stepping back, and just taking a moment to reflect, and also just taking a break, and so I want to like lead into that, and then also then go into let's talk about like helpful advice and like tips for content creators that are out there and what they're trying to do, and the people that are trying to build the channels, the people that are trying to build the following, the people that are maybe trying to reinvent themselves, like what advice you'd give them. But before there, I just want to know that moment of taking it back, like just taking a break sometimes, and taking, like learning that balance, like how important do you find that to be able to actually just take a break sometimes instead of doing this thing that everybody does, just like constantly pushing for content?
I think it's very important, man. I think it's very important for you to recenter. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of playing Fortnite or playing Apex with your mates on a daily basis while trying to reach crazy numbers on the stream or on YouTube. I think it's important to reevaluate and look at yourself and think, am I on the right path? Is this thing working for me? Have I grown since I've started? And what can I change, or how can I improve myself? So that's I believe that's the importance of taking a break. Hence why even if you have a day job, they require you to take leave so that you can just recharge the batteries and get back into it. Any tips and advice for anyone trying to break through into the scene? I think stay away from the politics as much as you can. Yeah, stay away from the politics as much as you can, man. And most importantly, I say this for those who are of the same color as you and me, black creators who feel as if they're being blackballed by the industry. I think generally in life, no one's out here to give you something on a silver spoon. Everything is earned, whether it's a copy of a video game, whether it's a code for get a video game review, whether it's merchandise, whether it's getting free consoles, getting big corporate deals. Everything is earned. And if you find yourself in a position where it's given to you, shout out to you, you are lucky and privileged to be in that position. But all the creators I've interacted with, from Sam, especially, I talk with Sam from time to time. She puts in the hard work, and she's earned her stripes in the industry, no matter who can say what. And I think that's important to stay on your path and reach out to as many people as you can. The SA gaming industry is small, but it's also quite big from a personnel point of view. There's a lot of great relationships you can build, not just with your fellow streamers and content creators, but with the ladies that run the different marketing divisions of the SA gaming industry, the different companies. You can create great relationships with those people, and they are the same people that will back you when your numbers can't back you. Or you get what I'm saying? They're the ones that'll say, okay, cool, bro, you don't have that much of a big of a following, but I like what you're doing. So you know what? Here's some merch. Here's some code. I've got a campaign. Here's a bit of money that you can make if you just tweet a couple of things for us, and treasure those relationships, because ultimately you don't know, in the world of freelancing, sometimes you don't know where your next paycheck is coming. You don't know who's giving you a thumbs up somewhere out there, and only your good work can do that for you. So I think that'll be my advice to peeps that are just trying to break into the game.
Dave, dude, thank you so much for willing to just impart your knowledge and your approach, and a lot of the understanding throughout your career and what you've been doing. Is there any closing thoughts, like final things as we wrap up, and that you want to say?
Not really, but let's just let's just not really, but let's just keep playing. Let's just keep paving it forward for young people coming through, whether young people, white, black, Indian, colored. I think the SA gaming industry is alive with possibility, man. There was that sweet golden era where VS gaming was pumping tons and tons of money into the industry, and I think I'd love it to go back to that space, where big corporates are taking a risk, because that's what VS gaming did. They just risked it all, and to a certain extent, I don't know the inner workings of how that played out, but from where I was sitting, that looked good. It shined quite a positive light on the scene, with Tabo from Goliath Gaming, before he signed to Goliath Gaming, winning that huge FIFA paycheck, to the guys from Bravado Gaming dominating the CSGO scene, dominating the Dota scene, and I think to a certain extent, at some point, White Rabbit Gaming was hot on their heels, So I think I'd love to see things go back to that period, and it can only go back to that period if people just just open up themselves to a whole new world, and stop like the bickering and all the Twitter the Twitter stuff, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, also a big part of that as well is also looking at the growth of Africa. And I think that's been what I've been really excited about, this approach, that Africa Games and Esports are taking, is looking at the broader scene. And I think for everyone watching, there's going to be a lot of insights from a lot of people across the continent as well, and the things that they're doing in their spaces, and the learnings that we can take as well, and and just kind of cross-pollinate those ideas. But right, I think it's time for us to wrap up. But Dave, thank you so much for staying here to chat with us today. I really, really appreciated it. Like I said, I'm always a big fan of the stuff you do, so it's been good to finally catch up and see what you've been up to.
Thank you so much, Glenn, man. Keep doing what you're doing in the scene, man.
No,
thank you for
much.
having me, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity.
So guys, keep watching the stream. There's a lot of really, really, like I said, a lot of amazing content is coming out there. Great insights from a lot of people across the continent talking about gaming, esports, and the careers within that space. So stay tuned for more. Thanks.
Glenn, thank you very much for that. Super Dave, that was super great positive messaging there. And I think that the best thing I took out of that is don't get involved in politics, don't get involved in negativity, be positive, stay the path, and keep good things coming out of this. Now we're going to move on to the second session that Glenn did. This is with Sam, Tech Girl Right.
All right, guys, welcome to Africa Games and Esports Careers Day. This is a really, really cool, I think, really cool initiative that's sort of part of rAge Expo as we've gone digital, given that we're in the world of COVID and social distancing and trying to do everything as online as possible. Today, with Sam Wright, we're talking around content creation and streaming. Sam and Tech Girl ZA, as you are better known. I mean, I don't think you need introductions, but I'll leave it to you to open up and just tell everyone who doesn't know you who you are and what you do.
Definitely need an introduction because not everyone knows me. We're small here at the little gaming scene. But my name's Sam. I'm an esports shoutcaster. That means I commentate on competitive video games, but I'm also a content creator. I have a blog. I have all the social media channels except TikTok. And I also live stream.
You're not on TikTok yet?
I'm not on TikTok yet. I haven't been convinced, so we'll see. I have ways.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm on lots of things. I've tried my hand at lots of things, and I started in content creation and blogging, and then kind of moved into esports commentating and being a little bit more serious career-wise.
Yeah, no, look, and I think, look, I mean, we've spoken a few times on a few different things around, gaming and esports. And I think, the point of today's chat and around the content creation is really looking at what kind of a career is in there, and obviously this is very much around the careers day and looking at what is a viable career within content creation and streaming. How do you go about getting a career there? And then also kind of looking at sort of, the good, the bad, and the ugly around it as well. And I think, Sam, you're a great person to have this conversation with, because I think you have a lot of experience in that. So I think, maybe just to start off, and let's start off with sort of an easy way to as we get into this chat, I think, how did you get involved? I mean, how did you go, cool, this crazy world of gaming, especially in a place like South Africa that's so small and it's so different and new, and at the time that you did it, there really wasn't sort of a beaten path to lead the way. So how did you find your way in this crazy world?
So for me, getting into gaming was one thing, but when I started was in content creation, and that was just blogging. That really came about from having a very super serious day job, which I was losing my mind. I needed a creative outlet. I started blogging, and that kind of got me into the content creation space. I jumped into gaming and specifically esports a couple of years later, when just came down to, I saw my friends, my brother's friends, actually getting really excited about what they did, which was play competitive video games, and no one really talking about it. I just wanted to tell their stories. I thought their stories were cool. It wasn't ever done because I was like, oh, gaming's the next big thing. It wasn't ever done because I was like, oh, this is a lot of people talk about, oh, it's a good niche for me to go into. It was literally just a matter of, I have this blog where I talk about lots of different things. I want to tell these stories because I think these stories are cool and I think people should hear them. And that was really how it all started.
Yeah. And I think, and that's such a cool thing in terms of the storytelling. I think it's something that, I think we've actually spoken about it a few times. It's such a powerful skill to have. I think it's one of the big differentiators, in terms of what makes good content creators and great ones. How do they tell stories from the most ridiculous things of an unboxing video to, when you're streaming, every day? It's there's a lot of storytelling there. I mean, in terms of, that you had during your during the start of your career in the space, what would maybe be one of the big lessons that you took out of that? One of the things you had to learn that you really needed to know to help grow your career.
So I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is understanding that you are telling stories. This is not about, I think a lot of people get into content creation and they go, I want to have lots of followers and I want to have all the brands giving me money and I'm going to make gazillions and throw this cash around. It shouldn't be about that. If you're getting into content creation, it should be because you like to tell stories.